optical focusing.
Yeah, I think we are live. I want to welcome everybody on the stream. We have a good turnout in the people joining the stream and good audience. This stream was supposed to talk about products that were sent to YouTubers or influencers to review or to feature on their channels. Before we start, I have some questions I want to go around, but I want to do introductions for everybody. So from my left to right, Jack, you're first. Just say your name and channel and information where people can find you.
All right, I'm Chuck Hellebuyck from CHEP 3D printing or CHEP electronics, but really Filament Friday. If you go to filamentfriday.com, it'll take you right to my YouTube channel. And I'm at Chuck Hellebuyck on Twitter. On there a lot. That's me.
Yeah, thank you. And Glenn and Sander, you're up next.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Glenn.
I'm Xander.
Together we are Fun King 3D, and we are a father and son team that does 3D printing and some electronic projects. Xander does a Xander Sing Thursday every Thursday at noon. And, of course, my big project right now is the FK1 3D printer. And we can be found at funking3d.com and pretty much anywhere Fun King 3D.
Yeah, thank you. And Joe Mike, you're up next.
I'm Joe Mike. I have a YouTube channel, I think still. I am sleep deprived. I just got finished with one of my longest 3D prints I've ever done, 9 months long. I'm a new father and I'm tired, but I'm here. So I'm on social media. Is it in the description?
Yeah.
Woohoo! It's there. Go look for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. And Matt, you're next.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt from How I Do It. Sort of like Joe Mike, I have a YouTube channel, but there's not much on it at the moment. I do a little bit of everything. My channel's more or less, what I'm into at the moment. I've been into a lot here lately, but a lot of it's been work taking up time, so I don't have much content out right now. But you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/howidoit. I'm regularly active on Twitter. My handle is @CountryCowboy, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Matthew Flinchball.
Yeah, thank you. Keith, you're up.
All right, I'm Keith. Tinkers, as most people know me, can find me on the web at tinkers.net. On social media as _Tinkers, because oddly enough, Tinkers was me, but I can't reclaim the account. So I got an underscore in front on everything else. So, and I've started recently uploading content on YouTube. And so you can find me at Tinkers on YouTube as well. I'm primarily focusing on printer mods or upgrades, depending on how you look at it.
Okay, thank you. And I'm last in line. I'm Marteinn. Those of you that were wondering how to say my name, it's more easy for you to say Marteinn, like Steve Martin, instead of Marteinn. Marteinn is not correct. So there was a debate on my name the other day on the community GitHub, and I want to clear that out. But
wait, how do you say it?
Marteinn.
Marteinn.
Marteinn. So, yeah, so it's if you say Martin, like that's as close as you can get.
We'll just call you Marty from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's my name, and yeah, and I have my channel 3DP Iceland, and you're on it. I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up and share it to your friends and subscribe to my channel. That always appreciate it. So I will plug myself in here, but. The main topic for this video or this hangout is how influencers or YouTubers are sent products to feature on their channels, and how sometimes those products are not like a final ready to be sold to customers products, and if the products are like a pre-production units and are sent out to people, and then people get it for review, but they don't have a like agreement or information about whether the unit is a final design or if the unit is like a pre-production unit. What happened the other day, both Angus, Maker's Muse, and Joe Telling, 3D printing nerd, got a printer to feature on the channel. Both of those units were like a pre-production unit and not really ready to be featured as a review unit. That spun up this question about how should that happen, or how should manufacturers approach YouTubers in regard of featuring their products or pre-production units. I want to get some discussion on your views on how your experiences were in that regard, and also your views. So I want to just go one round of like questions on how your experiences are in that case. Have you got a pre-production unit sent from a manufacturer, and was it clear that it was a pre-production unit, or what was the expectations? So I would like to start just with Chuck, because he's from left, if he had gotten into that situation and what his experience is.
Yes, I have unknowingly gotten pre-production units. I can't think of any time where I was told ahead of time. The TiVo Tornado was one I reviewed, and that had some issues. Wasn't too bad, but I ended up with two of them, and so I could see differences between them. The Ender 3 I recently got was an early unit. I don't know if it's pre-production, but it was an early unit. So I had similar problems to what Angus had on his. So that's it's kind of frustrating. But, you know, what can you do? It's what they sent me. They told me they're going to send me something, and that's what I got to go with. But in general, you know, that's like what Joel's gone through, Angus has gone through. You know, to me, it's not a whole lot different than some of these early Kickstarters or things like that. Everything, as long as they keep improving it, and they listen to the YouTubers and they listen to the community and they fix it, then we're doing a service. So I really don't see it's that big a deal. As long as you know, it helps to know ahead of time. But that's my thoughts on it. I don't see it as that big a deal, but as long as they fix it, as long as they listen.
Yeah. I think the main point there is, if you know it is a pre-production unit and you don't go into like a full review of the unit.
Well,
yeah,
true. Go ahead.
So I think one of the pieces of feedback that was given, a lot like what Chuck was saying, as long as you know ahead of time. But one of the pieces in Twitter conversation that was pointed out was the fact that even though it's not ready for review, it does provide information for the audience as a whole. Even if it's not quite ready for a full review, it does give them at least some view of the product. Whether or not it's ready or not, it's a different story, but at least it gives them something to look at.
Yeah, but they have to present it as this is a pre-production unit, or it's an early unit, or it's because at the point that you take it out of the box and you're excited about this brand new printer that's coming out and you're putting it together as though it's a production unit, and then it fails, you look like a jerk too, you know, and that's not okay. There has to be better communication.
I would say that I think it's folly on behalf of the manufacturers. I don't know if it's be folly, but I think it's not wise of them to send out pre-production units to be reviewed. I think it would be more wise in their case to send out pre-production units to be reviewed offline first. Like have those who deal with printers on a daily basis, so influencers and even some of the other companies that aren't making printers but are in the industry, if they sent these printers out and had them mess with them for like maybe 2 weeks, a month, and then come back and go, okay, here's all the things that we found that are wrong. Here's all the things we found that could be improved. Here's all the things that are just not up to snuff that we feel that you could probably, as a manufacturer, correct fairly easily, and that would save YouTubers the awkward point of having to say, I have this printer, I'm supposed to review it for you, but I don't really feel like it's ready for the limelight yet. And it would save face for the manufacturer, who is sitting there hoping to get a good review from a YouTuber, and the YouTuber has to come back and say, I'm sorry, but this is what I found with your machine. So, I mean, for me, I think it would be better for them to send it out, have whoever they send it to do an offline review for a while, and then once everything is figured out, lots of communication is exchanged back and forth, then they can say, okay, well, here we'll send you the replacement parts that we made to upgrade it. We'll send you, or we'll send you a new one based off of the recommendations, and then review that unit on your channel. Does that make sense?
You just described a job, man.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone in this chat does this for a living.
Yeah.
And not just that, but you specifically just described like someone at a company who actually goes through with a test plan and verifies hardware and software and makes sure that the bullet list of things that need to happen before they can declare some sort of minimum viable product is met, and then they can get it out there.
Yeah,
and so,
QC for sure.
Sure, but doing that with a YouTuber is irresponsible because if you send something to a YouTuber without explicitly communicating that it's a pre-release product, then you, like Glenn said, you look like the jerk. But if you send it to a YouTuber without declaring it as pre-release, and then you're expecting information back from that, the company's trying to steal your hours and get work from you, and that's a bunch of bullcrap as well. So it was who mentioned communication? I think communication is key here. It doesn't, without understanding what the company wants, you're not going to give them what they need, and you're going to end up harshing on a brand or a product and affecting a bottom line. I think one of the issues is there are so many machines being sent out from China, and some are great and some are very much not great. And when you get that machine, sometimes you get an email from a manufacturer that says, please test this for us. And then in the very next email chain, they'll say, and when you do the review. So it could be a little bit of a language barrier where they're using test and review and use and show off and showcase and every single literary term to put their product in front of eyeballs just because they don't know the correct way to describe the situation that they need. Other times you're talking about manufacturers that are just trying to be first to the gate and get their product in front of people regardless of what happens. And then they rely on the YouTube channels and the influencers who don't care and just, this is the best thing ever for everything. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. I want to ask you, like with a CRX case, in your case, what type of communication happened before you got the printer? Did it just show up, or did you have any like communication about the agreement, or how does it work?
Well, I got an email from Creality. I got an email from a reseller for Creality, and they said, we'd like to send you a CRX for review. And I said, I'm kind of I'm shying away from reviews on the channel because it's not something that it doesn't get the most views. It's not evergreen. A lot of people do it a lot better. So why not? Why not just I can use it in a project. If you send me the machine, I'll take it out of the box. You know, it'll look neat, and I will use it for a project. When I do, I can give links to this machine that you've sent and say it did a good job with this project, or it did not do a good job with this project. And so, not a typical review, but just, you know, a use case and some sort of median average as to a machine and showing it off. And so they said, great. And they sent it to me, and then it showed up. And then, well, we know the rest, you know, and you know, talking about the CRX, let's just go back in time, and let's say the G code files that were buried in the directories on the SD card were actually visible by the touchscreen. Let's just say that happened. We wouldn't even be here, because then the printer, all it would have been, it would have a crappy bed leveling experience, and I wouldn't have to shake it and rage myself at Creality and get that video from Naomi.
Yeah. Yeah,
we'd be in a different place if that happened.
Yeah, but that's like you said, like a quality control. It's like nobody at the factory took this printer out and pretended to be a normal user.
Or they did. They found issues. They flashed a new firmware to it and didn't fully test it before sending it out. It's very possible that a new firmware flashed to the printer right before it went out actually broke directory level functionality with the SD card. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, but that's the main thing, that they were expecting, like if the product was a final release product and you got a beta unit, basically.
Right. Oh, right. And you know, when I'm not trying to hog time, I just, you know, I have some experience here. When I think back, this is very, I wish I could have done the Kodama Obsidian video series different, because I just think back on that, and that whole thing just sucked because of the communication and what was expected. And I felt used. It didn't feel right. And I should have learned from that. And I should have applied the principles I learned from that to things going forward. But I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it from like the time aspect. That does make, you know, a lot of sense. My personal experience is not like yours, Joel. So it's not like the bigger companies are coming and releasing the printers. More, it's extremely small shops, like one or two people putting a printer together, and you know, at that point, you know, I'm providing feedback. But you know, for someone who has a high volume of people who are wanting your time, and for people who are, you know, wanting you to review their products or showcase their products, I can definitely see that as being an additional burden. Not only that, but I mean, you do this full time, so you know, at that point, I think that would cross into like consultation. Like you said,
right,
someone's
exactly
got a job that looks at this, and then, you know, they should not use YouTubers alone to debug and to come up with revisions to their product. I guess I should
well, they could. They very much could. But like I said in the Creality video, they could easily come up with a contract for me, and we could come up with a pay scale. You know, it's work. It's hourly work, and I could be like, I'll charge you this much per hour. I will give you this many hours, and here's the report I will give you at the end. Because the problem is, as a YouTuber, as an influencer, as someone with a platform, anything I do, example, with a 3D printer, if, you know, my job is to make content, so I should film it and talk about it and give my opinion about it. But if they want me to investigate a machine, make a report or find the defects, and then send them a report about it, and I can't make a video on that, then that's work, and I need to charge for it. And I don't think everybody's come to the same point for that, because I still get people that are like, "Oh, you raged about getting a free printer." Ha ha. It's like,
well, let me ask you this, because we were talking a little bit about communication and how it's vital to the process. And whereas there is definitely a lot lost in translation, especially from the companies over in China, what if it's something along the lines of, if they sent you a printer and they wanted you to feature it on their channel, and they're like, oh, by the way, if you do find something wrong with this printer, would you mind letting us know before you publish the video, or allow us to fix the issue before you publish the video? Would you consider that in the same consulting area, or just kind of a hospitality kind of deal? I mean, how's that?
I think it falls under whether or not I can make that find public. And
Okay.
So if I'm going about and doing something to a machine and they say, hey, you know what, before the video goes live, can you let us know about a problem and we can attempt to fix it? And if I say, well, I need to talk about this whole process, our interaction, what the problem was and how you fixed it, and they say no, then of course, then it's like, no, I can't do that. It has
It's about
to do
the journey
with
and not the destination necessarily.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Felt like I raged. I'm sorry.
No. It's perfectly, like, I think out of all of us, like you said, you've got a lot of experience in this space. So, coming from the perspective of a full-time YouTuber and us over here as people who aspire to be on the level that you are, I think it's just one of those times that it's interesting to see the paradigm shift of what we're willing to do as small channels versus you being a full-time YouTuber and having to to not only spend your time wisely, but to also make sure that you're covering your bases to get paid for your time. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because Joel gets more machines than he can do.
Yes, I do. You bring up a really good point, because when I didn't have as much influence and I was a smaller channel, I was way more willing to do more work to work with a manufacturer. But now that my opinions actually carry weight, like my video on the Robo affected their bottom line.
mm-hmm.
I need to be more careful.
Their
What's that,
printer
Jack?
affected. Their printer affected their bottom line.
Sure.
You didn't do it. It was your printer, their printer, and he was there, right?
Yes, he was. That's a very good way to look at it, Chuck. But still, there's always going to be a larger than I'm comfortable with percentage of people who view that you get a free printer, you should do everything you can to make it work to show people. And as a review, that's really not my job. If I'm using it on a project, that's fine. And I could have done that. I did. I was able to get it printing, and I talked about that in the video for the CRX. But I just, I was done. I was so done. I was just like, screw this. No more, nothing. And
But I think that was fair.
Three Robos. Is that one, Chuck?
I said I think the CRX thing was fair in the respect that you actually gave that to the community, because let's face it, that CRX was for sale. People were investing $800-900, and they may get the same thing you did. We don't know. So they sent one out to you. They sent one out to Angus, and you guys had similar experience. So yeah, it hurt their bottom line, but on their own accord because of what they sent you guys. So I think that served a purpose for the community. If someone's thinking about buying one of those, they probably hesitated. I would.
Well, it's love and logic.
A lot of people hesitate.
That's the biggest thing is, people are coming to Joel's channel. They're coming to Chuck's channel. They're coming to Jeremiah. Any of us, if you're reviewing a printer, people are coming to your channel to buy it as an end user. And I mean, you can only spend so much time on a free printer trying to fix the problems and trying to document what you did to fix the problems, when in all reality, that's not what the end user is going to want. They don't want to have to buy, whether it's an $800 or a $200 printer. They don't want to have to buy a printer that they have to fix. So, like, I've said it from the beginning with Joel's video on the CRX. I think that was a perfect reaction to what you got. Mm-hmm. It was the closest reaction for somebody with 20-some printers to have to a person buying their very first printer. I think it was a justified response. And really, Joel, you held back probably from what I have 5 printers. And if I went through what you went through with that, just to get the printer to work out of the box, I wouldn't have held back as well as you did.
And I would agree.
That was
in
probably
the
a tempered response, and most people don't realize it.
I would also agree along the same lines with the whole Robo fiasco. I mean, that's like Chuck said, that is Robo kind of missing something there. I mean, when I was in California, that I did have the chance to go over and hang with Braden for a little bit at Robo and kind of see how they work over there. And when we were going through where all these R2s were set up, and they were putting on these new mounts because of Joel and your experience. So, you know, you could see it kind of on Braden's face, like, yeah, it is what it is. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, it is what it is. You designed this product, and apparently there's an issue with it. You can't go blaming anyone but yourself on this one, you know?
And in that situation, it's a repeatable problem.
Yeah.
Like, every one of the Robos you got, Joel, had similar problems, didn't it? With the lead screw being bent, or bearings, or whatever, something.
It was either hot end clogs or bent lead screws.
Yeah,
I mean, every single Robo R2, as far as I've seen, has crappy auto bed leveling, and so everybody says just turn it off in the G code in Octoprint, which I did, and I mean, this, you know, this is at 0.1 from the Robo R2. This is decent. This is a really decent print, and you know, it's got an escape hole, of course. It's where the elephant poops. But
don't mention poop right now, please.
I thought it was supposed to come out his nose.
So, you know, and I just, before we go any further, I just want to make sure, like, Creality and Robo and, God forbid, even Kodama, right? No one is barred from the channel. Everybody should have an option to upgrade, repair, make better, and offer something. But the whole story has to be told, and everything doesn't have a happy ending. You know, some things don't. And so if Robo gets some more fixes or something, and Braden texts me and says, Joel, we have something here, and I think you'd like it, and we want you to show it to your audience, and I could be like, is this available? And he'd say yes, and I'd say, let's do this, right? Not just because it's content, but because
it helps the user base.
And it helps the user base. Exactly.
Well, yeah. These companies would be crazy to send out review printers, not expect some bad reviews, and then just hide from it. I mean, if you hide from a bad review, that's going to hunt you down. So, you know, you show your failures, you show what you did to overcome that failure, and then you release the golden apple. So, I mean, they have to fix it. They have to fix it, and then they have to give you another one to do it again.
Well,
they have to accept responsibility for it first. So, you know, a lot of them don't want to accept responsibility. A lot of manufacturers want to blame the end user using it improperly or assembling it improperly. You know, when you have a turnkey product like the R2, that supposedly you should be able to take out of the box, go through a quick setup process, and print, then when you run into those kind of issues, that is definitely a red flag that something engineering-wise is off, or quality control-wise is off. And I mean, Braden is shifting Robo to the education space. I mean, that's like his goal right now, is to get Robo where MakerBot is, and kind of push MakerBot out of the education space and make Robo the go-to printer for STEM. And I can tell you this much from being married to a teacher and having, you know, close connections with most of the STEM teachers here in my city. If they get a printer and that printer doesn't work, they will not use it. That printer will sit
at all.
yeah, it will sit, it will get dust. They will do their best to acquire another printer that does work. So
absolutely, because their funding is easier to get to buy equipment than it is to get somebody in there to repair something they've already bought. So absolutely, it's going to sit in a corner. It's going to rot.
yeah,
Well, especially when repair rates are as high as they are.
yeah, and that's why you see so many like you see the highway of death of maker bots for STEM purposes. You know, the MakerBot is really, really good at selling printers. I will give you that because my wife went to a teaching conference, and guess who was there talking about the amazingness of the product and how it's going to change and innovate their classroom experience. And my wife, knowing better than that because we have regular discussions about 3D printing, but she does know that she knows my dislike of MakerBot anyway. So she's sitting there like with the skeptical eye while all these other teachers are just glazed over like, oh my gosh. And it's just like, you're going to get this thing into the classroom. It may print decently for you for a while, but eventually you're going to get tired of it. It's not a sustainable mechanism, and there's so many better printers out there that you can buy for less and buy more of. So instead of buying one MakerBot, why don't you buy like 3 Prussias or something that they can not only learn about 3D printing, but learn about the mechanism that allows 3D printing to happen. That's all part of STEM too. So maybe a kit build is like the first step, and then they can learn about how a Cartesian works, because then not only are they learning science and technology and engineering and math, but they're also learning how to troubleshoot their own equipment at that point. So instead of like scratching their head as to why this thing they just got out of the box isn't working, they now can have a better understanding of, oh, well, this is not working, so it's probably connected to this stuff back here that we assembled. I think it's just a better, in the long run, education platform, but that's that.
What time is it? Talking, Joe, Mike, you 10:37 Eastern, so what is that?
9:37.
9:37 for you.
Feels like 2 a.m. right now.
You were talking about, like with MakerBox and repair services and stuff. MakerBot, sorry.
I'm all about the MakerBox.
Yeah. Shane from Prusa asked in the chat what the going rates are in the U.S. for printer repair. And I've actually been doing a little bit of research in this in the more recent past here. Most of the printer repair services in the United States don't list an hourly cost. You send them fill out a form. They send you an estimated quote of what they're going to do or what they think might be the problem. But then you don't find out the total price till you send it to them and they get a chance to actually physically look at it, which makes sense. But
I'll tell you mine.
Go ahead.
I mean, because with 3DKC, I do printer repair on site at schools and businesses around the KC area, and I'm $95 an hour when I do that.
Wow, that's a deal, dude. At $95 an hour, that's low.
That is pretty daggum low, but that's still $95 an hour that someone is having to bill. And let's be honest, when something goes wrong with a 3D printer, if it's not a simple like, oh, you're just not doing this right, or you need to adjust retraction or something like that, if it's an actual issue with the printer, there are hours that are going into troubleshooting, there are hours going into repair, and by the end of it, and I mean, I've gotten $1,500, $2,000, invoices that I've had to hand out to school districts for working on, I hate to say it, but a LOLs bot, because basically they tried to mess with it and they got burned. So, but yeah,
that's kind of HVAC trade. I mean, we charge, the company I work for currently is at like $120 $120, 105, somewhere in there, depending on the type of equipment I'm working on. You can very quickly on cheaper equipment, which, I mean, we're talking, in a lot of cases, printers that are $500 to $2,500. So that's probably a safe range for schools and stuff like that to be in. You can quickly rack up half the bill of another printer or the full bill of a printer, just like Joe Mike said, even at $95 an hour, which is pretty cheap. But the other side of it too, I was looking, Fargo 3D printing. They currently have a 12 to 16 week lead time to repair a printer. That's a long, 12 to 16 weeks is what, 3 months, almost 3 months to 4 months that you're going to be out of the machine. You don't want to have to do that with these pre-production. If you get something that's different from like what Joel got for the CRX and Angus got, but it has different problems, you can't just go on YouTube right away and look at it. Or why would you want to spend the money on something like that, knowing there's a pretty good chance it may come and not work out of the box to begin with? Mm-hmm. So I think to tie back in, the service fees involved with it, because Creality is not going to come over here and fix the CRX for you. You're going to send it to Joe Mike. You're going to send it to Fargo 3D Printing. You're going to send it, if Printed Solid would start selling them, or Tiny Machines, you're going to send it back to them. And that's all time that you're out for an $800 to $1,000 printer easily.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of, in the education space, they're, going crazy for turnkey printers. So printers that you take out of the box and use. And turnkey printers are, let's be honest, turnkey printers that schools buy are usually above $1,000. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, the cheapest maker bot that you can get is $1,300, and that's the mini. And most of them are getting the replicator, which is $2,500, and they'll get like a fleet of these, and of course they get a volume discount of some type, but it's never really the same. It's still you're paying a crap ton of money for something that you were told is just going to work, and then it just doesn't work. And then, like you said, there's such a backlog of repair and such few people that actually repair it that you're stuck with a machine that doesn't work for so long. Which is why I really I dig Prusa, because I've had issues with Prusa printers in the past, and get on tech support, talk it out with them, and they send me new parts, and the new parts are here like that. So I'm used. Since I put the printer together and since I know how it works, I can replace the part. I'm up and printing in about a week with shipping, after shipping. So.
Yeah, and coming back to the subject on like the reviews that are done.
Sorry, Martin, we went off.
Yeah, a little bit.
We chased that rabbit.
Yeah, but I want to chip in on that, because if you like Joel got some machine, and let's say his experience with it was pretty good, but as it was a pre-production unit and not the final design, the general public sees that video and thinks, okay, this is a good product, I will go buy it, but they get a different printer because they got the production unit, and then they have problems. And who they're going to blame for recommending that printer? They're going to blame the YouTuber for saying this was a good experience. So and like you said, it will cost maybe more or half of. If you have to get the printer repaired by a professional, you'll have to buy almost a new printer to get it to work.
Well, they can blame the YouTuber,
yeah,
left and right, up and down. That's fine, but as YouTubers or content creators, and most of us, being in this space for long enough to know a good design from a bad design, and a faulty product from a good product, we have the ability to substantiate and quantify why the design is bad and why it's not our fault. So we make that very clear in our videos. Like, I don't know why they chose to engineer it this way. Obviously, it's not working correctly. Obviously, this probably is not the way it's supposed to be working. You know, at that point, it's not on our hands. This is your product. I'm doing everything that you told me to do with it. I'm trying to use it as a printer, and it's not working correctly. So whose fault is that? I mean, at the end of the day, like Chuck said, it's love and logic. You make a mistake, you have to own up to it and face the consequences of your mistake.
Yeah, but I was really going on the situation if the YouTuber got a pre-production unit that was working and did not have an issue, but then the general public got the final version and that had a problem. So it had to be clear if the YouTuber is reviewing or getting a final product.
Oh,
right. It goes back to that initial communication with either the manufacturer or the sales house that sends it. There has to be that initial communication that this is a pre-production unit, or it's a beta, or it's an early version, or whatever. And then it's on us to also communicate that out when we make the video. Listen, before I even open this box, I want to tell you this was sent to me as a pre-production, yada, yada, so that the people know. And then, you know, even throughout the video, as things aren't right, and you say, hey, this isn't right, but, you know, maybe they'll fix it in the production unit.
Or even a preference. It might be to the point to where us as content creators just kind of give a quick disclaimer like, hey, we were sent this printer for free to review. I'm not sure of the status of this printer. I don't know if it is pre-production. I don't know if this is the final product. We're just going to run through what they sent me and see how it works and go from there. And I'm going to tell you my reviews on this specific printer. And if it turns out that it was pre-production, at least at that point, I mean, you kind of put that seed in the viewer's mind that maybe that printer is different because it was sent as a one-off to you. I mean, you look at like the Moai. The Moai was sent to like Angus, who was able to run it through its paces while the Moai was still on Kickstarter. So that was great because everyone knew at that point this is definitely a pre-production printer, you know, and this is what it's doing. So at that point, it was still a gamble because it's Kickstarter. It was still a gamble because you don't know what kind of voodoo magic they would have sent to Angus to make it look like an amazing kit that might not be in the Kickstarter campaign. But, you know, at the same time, you know, you have someone like Mark who is very upfront and very honest and sent Angus what he intended to sell. And that's what we got. And it blew up. And that's what manufacturers need to, you know, concentrate on. You know, they need to be upfront, honest, accept responsibility when things don't work correctly, fix it when they don't work correctly, and don't blame the community or YouTubers or influencers when it's their own fault that something is wrong. Now, if I will say if it's like a kit and there's the off chance that, you know, they send the kit, we build the kit incorrectly, you know, at that point they can call us out and say, well, you built it wrong, here's what you did wrong, this and this and this. If you built it this way, then it would probably work. And at that point we have to then do what we said about the manufacturers. We have to accept responsibility, and then we have to fix it, and then go through the paces again and say we took the feedback that we got from the manufacturer and implemented it, and now this is how it's printing, whether it's better or worse. And at that point you go, so I went through the steps that the manufacturer told me to do, and I'm either still having problems or that fixed it and it was just my mistake to begin with.
Mike NLTMW in the chat just commented. He said his concern is that we, the community, understand that, you know, this is pre-production, or what may be received isn't what the end user is going to get. I mean, we've seen Creality make changes on the CR10S. Mm-hmm. Wow, it's been in production and being sold, my CR10S is different than the CR10S that I borrowed from Printed Solid right after Earth that I brought home. The one I got from them has all injection molded parts on it. There are no 3D printed parts. Mine has the filament sensor, the extruder, everything's 3D printed on there. And you're talking 2 months difference from when the printer they have versus the printer I have, both of which came from Printed Solid. So, you know, the community, those involved in 3D printing already kind of understand that a little bit, that companies are constantly iterating on the design, but not making a model number change. He said newer users now or in the future just sees the YouTube video saying bad things about a printer from 6 months ago, that those issues may have been changed and corrected. I'd say my comment to that is with YouTube, unfortunately, you don't have the ability to go back and add on to the end of a video after you upload it. But the one thing you do have the ability to do is the cards and the little info links that pop up at the top of them. You can go back and change that. So if, you know, this deal with the CR10X or the CRX, if, you know, Creality fixes the problems, at which they've already released a video, I think within a week of Joel and Angus releasing their live streams and videos about it. They've already come out and said, you know, look, we're holding off on shipping out any additional units. We're going to take the changes recommended by the community and put those into production, and we'll release it. If that YouTuber then gets one of those updated models or production ready models, so to speak, they can release a new video, but that doesn't guarantee a user is going to see that video instead of the old video where they threw the printer under the bus, essentially.
Well, you can always change the icon, the video thumbnail. That's one way to do it. You can also update your description, update the title, and be like, this is an old video, please see new video in description.
Right.
But at the same time,
go ahead, sorry.
at the same time, I think that both videos do need to be up. You know, it needs to be like a, here's the way it was, here it is now.
Anything on the internet, you need to pay attention to the date that it was released. I mean, I think that's a large part I mean, that's the responsibility of the end user to realize how old is the information I'm looking at, which is why I always look for a date whenever I'm reading information. Is like, well, how old is this? Is this pertinent to the current version I have or not? And that's, the end user needs to be responsible for that. I mean, the changing the cards, the changing the title, that's a very responsible YouTuber, great, but the end user needs to realize that the information they're getting can be dated, and they should look for the most recent stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, on my channel, I've got videos all the way back in 2016 that are still viewed more than my more recent videos, and it's like a lot has changed in the space since those videos were released. But there's still people hitting those videos that probably are new to 3D printing, and you know, for the most part, they're still accurate. But there's a lot of stuff. For example, like all the Octoprint stuff, when I was messing with Octoprint, they were on version 13, and now they're on version 15, and we've got a Raspberry Pi B+, and all this new stuff, and the way that you install it is different, and the way you configure the Wi-Fi is different, and, you know, it's one of those things where I'm going to need to go back and do an update video of hey, you know, this is all the new stuff. So do I take down my original video, make it private, and just replace it, or do I, you know, just do what I was talking about earlier and just update and be like, this is for Octoprint or Octopi version 14 and below. For version 15 and above, go to this video. You know, it's like
those older videos have value though, because just because you have the new version doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have the old one and need to fix theirs, or got a hand-me-down from somebody else, or any of those kind of things. It doesn't make the old stuff any less valid, and so that stuff should still be up there. I wouldn't take it down, because there are times when people are looking for that old information. Oh, I've got an older version of whatever, and so I need it to relate to my current stuff because the new one isn't relevant. And so both should be up there.
I did a review on eBay, $154 printer. Didn't want a low cost printer. I was okay, I'll just buy one. I bought it on eBay, and it didn't go well, but I had fun with it. I showed everybody, and I've recently, that was over a year ago, and I've recently had a few people come on and buy that printer and have watched the review, and they said that helped them. So you never know.
Yeah, that's kind of like all the little videos I did on the TiVo Tarantula. When I first got that kit, I wasn't entirely happy with a lot of the engineering choices, especially like the acrylic bed and some other things. And I have people who come on and go, well, you just poured the amount of money that you would have paid for the printer into upgrades. And I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of Mythbusters the heck out of this thing. I went to the utmost extreme, but you don't have to do that. I mean, in a lot of this videos that I did were just kind of like, these are the hot button topics, like power. You don't want a power supply just hanging out in the middle of nowhere, not covered. So take care of that. And the bed, you can 3D print a new bed that's a lot more stiff and it's going to give you better results. Everything else, is optional. I'm not trying to sell it as a, upgrade your printer exactly like you did mine or your prints are going to suck kind of deal. It was more of just this is what I did to mine, and I still get people who are like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then I get the people who are like, oh man, you just missed the point of the whole thing. You just spent $500 to upgrade a $400 printer. It's like, well, I just did it because it's what I do. I mean, that's. Have you seen any other things on my channel? I go like crazy with my upgrades. I tinker too much. But again, new users, they stumble upon the video, they don't they don't know the context. Context is key.
Well, and touching back on whether or not you should delete the old videos, those videos also as a YouTuber have value because that's the ones that are driving traffic.
Very true.
They've got all the old interaction and all the old comments and all the views and so that will then draw or drive to the new video. Not that that's on this topic. That's more on the topic of being a content creator. But
no, but that is a good point though, Glenn. Because I mean, those old videos are, to an extent, you can kind of look at those as historic. They're telling the history of this product. And Tinkers is right. It's really up to the end user. When I watch a video and I'm like, man, that's out there. Like, this is the way it is. But then I'm like, wait, when was this released? And because it's something, I have that product or whatever. I was just looking at videos for the AR drone 2.0 from Parrot. The thing's like 5 years old. I've had mine for 4 years. And I was just watching videos the other day on it because I want to tear mine apart and 3D print a whole new body for it. I'm watching these videos and I'm like, man, mine has none of these features or doesn't have this stuff. So, leaving the video up there tells the story. And really, the solution to that, what should happen with the new video, what should happen with the updated product that has the fixes to it, they should both exist. And if the company that made that product doesn't want that to exist, then they have to get it right when they send the first one out.
Well, one of my big griefs right now is that YouTube took annotations away. They did it a long time ago, and I understand their reasoning for it.
I don't.
It was to get cards in because they didn't want both cards and annotations rolling at the same time. But the cards are not nearly as grabbing. It'd be so much easier to throw up an annotation at the beginning of the video saying this is for version 14 and below. For version 15 and above, please see this video. Right. Boom. Annotation done. I don't have to re-upload.
Yeah, and you could put them like in the face of the viewer.
Exactly.
It wasn't a slight little note. It was in their face.
Yeah, there's no way they missed it. So. And at that point, it's like if they complain and say, well, it's not done that way anymore. It's like, well, did you skip the first 5 minutes? It was like there.
I think the reason for that is kind of goes back to what Glenn said about leaving the old video up for the content creator. That video still has a purpose monetarily and as content and interaction to the channel because of the views, because of the comments, because of the continued views. I think that's the same reason that YouTube did away with things like the cards, because if you slap a card right on the not a card, the annotation, right on the very beginning of the video in the middle of it,
people hop over.
Yeah, they're going to hop over. So there's one less video. YouTube now just lost advertisement money on that and interaction from it as well.
But as a YouTuber, I'm then like, you know,
I'm not trying to justify or defend them for doing it, but that's probably the thoughts behind it and why they got rid of that.
I mean, it's who do we hose? You know, do we hose YouTube? Or do we hose the creators, the content creators? And at this point, I feel like this is more of a hosing the content creators because the cards just suck. I'm sorry, but it's just a little bitty bar that comes across the top with a description. I don't notice that half the time they come across unless someone draws my attention to it by going, make sure to hit the little eye up in the corner and check out this link, you know. But if it's a video that's already published and has been around for a year plus, I can't get in and posting, hop in and then put a little thing like a voiceover going, and check out the card at the top for the new version of Octoprint. You know, it's like, so I don't have any way to make my old video to where it is, you know, up to date. And yeah, that drives content creation. I am going to have to make another video. I can't just plaster my old video with annotations. So I can't just be like, oh, in this step, disregard for version 15 and go here, blah, blah, blah. You know, and just lines and lines and lines and paragraphs of annotations on my video. But it still would be nice if they gave us the ability to upload even a short video in front of our old video, like a bumper, our own advertisement, like saying, hey, this is Joe. You're about to watch my Octoprint video 1. Just so you know, this is for version 14 and below. I have a new video for version 15, which is the current and latest version. If you want to check that out, make sure you hit the description at the bottom. This video is still chock full of great information, but if you find yourself getting lost, you might want to check out that new video because it probably has what you're looking for. And then just insert that at the beginning.
Yeah. Chuck, you're in that position where you've reviewed printers now. Like the one that's coming to mind is the Wanhao DI3B2, the touchscreen one. When you got that, you had from the bed leveling screws experienced the short because of the bed leveling screw grinding the protective coating off the traces. I know you look a lot at the analytics of videos, and with that specific situation, you released the update saying, hey, you know, Wanhao took my solution that I did in this video to fix this problem and implemented that across the board. What's your kind of take on the updated videos to an issue with the machine? How have you approached that?
Well, in that particular case, the idea was to give an update so people could fix their machine. I didn't want them to have a machine that, you know, could hurt somebody. Not that it was, you know, could shock you and kill you, but it definitely could give you a poke, and who knows what could happen. But Wanhao responded. They made their own video, and they asked me if they could use my technique to do it, which was actually crappy. They used paper and stuff, but at the end of the day, the original video with the problem got a ton more views than the follow-up. So those that really wanted to know could go watch it. It was out there, but I don't know how many people actually saw it. So I don't know how helpful it was.
Did you do anything to try to push people over from the old video to the new video, like with the cards at the top, the information card stuff? Like, did you do anything there to try to kind of guide a new user or new viewer? I mean,
yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I did a whole lot in the original video. Like, I may have had a link in there to the new one, but I don't think. I mean, the annotations were gone by then. I wish we had annotations, like Joe Mike said, but I can't remember doing it, but what I tried to do is get the video. I think it was the next video. So if someone had watches on a regular basis, they would see the next video and, oh, okay, he updated us. And now I know how to fix it. If I got one of these or if I'm going to buy one, I know what to do. But what was really nice about that whole thing is, and what I felt good about is, Juan Ho got in touch with me, said, what do you recommend? And they did the paper bit in their video, but they actually used an idea to use an insulated washer. I said, fix your board, but if nothing else, use an insulated washer. And if you go look at any of those printers now, I've seen them at Micro Center, even the Power Specs and that, they all have that washer in there. So I look at that and I go, I fixed something in the community. That felt pretty good. So the videos didn't matter as much, the follow-up, because the printers were fixed. And that's really what mattered.
Yeah, I guess to an extent, once you release that video, it's sort of OneHow's responsibility to make it known that they fixed this issue. Which I bought my DI3 V2 after seeing your video and after seeing the update video. I bought mine at Micro Center, so it was one of the Power Spec variants of it. And it first thing out of the box, that's what I looked for, was to see if it had your washers on it, and it did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they started doing that instantly. I mean, they followed up, and that's what I talk about. Like even with Creality fixing it, that's the thing. If they're listening and they're fixing it, then it helps the community. So Joel's video, Angus's video on the CRX wasn't bad. It was a service. But from that point of view too, and I've seen a lot of discussion in the chat about, if you get a free printer, you're going to give a free view. People don't trust you if you got a free printer. Or there's different discussion on that. And you know what? There's some channels I think have done that. I've tried not to get sucked into that at all, because if something's good, I say it's good. If something's bad, I say it's bad. It's my opinion and my reputation on the line, not the company. So how I get the printer doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to give an honest review. Many of the printers early on I bought. So there's many of my reviews I bought the printer, and a couple of them I sent them back. I was like, I'm not going to keep this thing. I paid for it. It wasn't any good. I sent back on my money back. So to me, I was fair. I was allowed to do that like anyone would do. I'm to the point now, though, that's been so tainted with the GearBest and everything out there that I am very, very picky about reviews that I'll do. And if I get one that looks like it's, early unit, I probably won't even do a review, because it's not going to help. And like I've got a TiVo Flash that they sent me. I'm running it through its paces now. It's not going to really be a review. I'm just going to use it and see how that goes. I got the See-Me CNC Artemis. I'm lucky enough to get one of those from See-Me CNC. I initially had a few issues with it, and they corrected it. But they were actually, some of it was my fault in putting it together. Some of it was some parts, but they fixed it, and they were fixing that stuff. So I'm like, well, why put that out there, because it's already being fixed? So those are the kind of things I look at. But what I ended up deciding is that I've had the advantage of trying a lot of different printers. And I have a print farm, like some of you guys know, that I print a lot of stuff that I sell. And I settled on, for a good low-cost machine I can recoup my money, that was the CR10 Mini. And I got 6 of those running. I got a couple more in the box. And of those 6, one of them was given to me. The other ones I bought. And so I've been running those things for over a year. I know those printers well. So when I make videos on those things, I'm doing it so people who may have that printer can benefit from my experience. The settings that I use, maybe they can, what's his name? Filament Frenzy settings really help a lot of people. So that's the approach I take on it now. It's not really, I don't really want to do a review. What I want to do is help people who are watching, who are trying to get started 3D printing, how to get this print they may have bought, get it working better. And hopefully companies are watching and improving things, which I know Creality is. So I'm comfortable with doing that. But that's the approach I'm taking now. I turn down a lot of printers now. A lot of them. They want to send me. Dremel wanted to send me one. I said, no, thanks. I'm going to pass. Nothing against Dremel. I didn't need another printer on the channel.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the bigger channels are not doing like the old school classical review. Like Joel said, he will do a project using that printer and talk about his experience. And like you said, if the printer works out for you, you will use it in your videos as a tool and talk about your experience in that way. So it's and I think also for the reviews, there have been so many like buy this printer, it's the best printer ever type of reviews, and just use the link in the video description to buy one, and having the affiliated links. Even now I see people having linked to products in the video description, but they are saying in the video there's a link to the product, but it's not an affiliate link, because somehow affiliate links are now a bad thing, because all of those YouTube channels that have they told people to just buy this printer because it's the best printer in the world, it's kind of damaged the reputation of YouTube channels having links to the products. So it's a lot of responsibility to recommend a product in a review.
Well, just on that example, I do have links in mind, but I link for those people that want to buy and use the same printer that I have. Go ahead and use the link. I do get a little from the channel, but if you don't want to use it, that's fine. If you don't want to buy it, that's fine. But I use Banggood as my main source for two reasons. One is they ship out of the U.S. They have a U.S. warehouse, which to me is a big selling feature, because you don't have to wait for forever for this thing to come from China, and the shipping's cheaper, and they back the stuff really well. They got all the parts there, and I sell. I've used them for years for electronics, which they sell a lot of electronics. So I've bought electronics for Banggood. So it's a company I've used, a company I trust. GearBest, I don't push those links. I have one link on there right now for Ender 3 because Banggood is out. So if someone wants an Ender 3, they wants to use that link, it's up to them. But that'll probably just come back off. It's only a service because someone had asked, where to get one. But that's the links that I use because I trust the company. And all the CR10 minis that I have, I've bought, not through my link. I bought from the company at different times because I wanted to understand the experience, how long it took. So you can say I'm a shill for having links in there. I mean, go ahead. But I'm saying it's there to support the people who wanted maybe getting started, want to do what I'm doing, want to do it on the same printer, want to follow along, want to use the same settings so they can learn along with me. That's why they're there.
Yeah, I'm not saying like you were doing it, but I've seen some channels do it like the best printer ever, and doing like a 5-minute review, printing one thing and putting it out as the best printer ever. So I think that has just damaged the reputation of affiliate links in general.
I think if you look like Chuck, I think you may or may not have had videos of, the best 3D printer under $500, because that was your thing, was the sub $500 printers.
Still
I
is.
think, I think you may have had a video here or there saying the best printer under $500, which is different. Every video you release isn't the best printer. I know what Martin's talking about. You've seen other channels that every single printer review they put out is the best printer. And I think, when you have as many printers as Chuck does, you've handled as many printers as Chuck has, as Joel has, as Angus has. You almost, I don't think at this point can say the best printer out of all of them, because in a lot of cases, they all have different features that some features are better on this printer and other features are better on this printer.
That's why we all have so many different ones.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have 5 printers. I have a small one. I have a gigantic one. I have my reliable one, and I have my kit ones. I think you know, what Chuck said he's doing with, you know, showcasing a printer on his channel, featuring a printer, the CR10 Mini. I mean, that has become Chuck's workhorse. Using the printer in product or in projects rather than reviewing it. I think we've started seeing Joel's looking at going the same direction, pretty much has gone the same direction. Angus doesn't do printer reviews anymore. He uses printers. He says, I printed this on X printer. That's sort of, because no matter how you do it, if you do a review of a printer, you're going to get a hard time from one direction or another. If you say a printer is the greatest printer you've ever used yet, that may truly be the case, but there's going to be plenty of people out there who have a problem with that and say, well, you got this printer at a discount, or you got this printer for free, or you didn't even know this printer was coming to you. It just showed up at your door. But then, you know, you turn around and you do release a video saying, you know, here's all these problems that should not be a problem from this company. This company has experience in this at this point. They shouldn't have these problems. And you point out the issues, and pardon my French, but it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't sort of deal. So, you know, what printer do you use from day to day? Which ones get highlighted on your channel rather than reviewed? And you can
That's actually the more important thing is which ones are you using on your day-to-day basis?
Right.
Not the 5-minute review because I got it new type thing. I mean, let's face it. The euphoria of something brand new is always very positive. New relationships, new anything, we're always very excited about. But what about the printers that you do use every day, like Chuck's using the CR10 Minis, you know, all the time? That, you know, that's a different story than doing the review one time. I used it. I didn't get, you know, I didn't print more than 10 hours on it, so I don't know what it's going to do long term. But, you know, the turn towards projects like Joel is doing and Chuck in terms of these evergreen videos and not reviews, because reviews are very focused on what's new today. And in 2 months, it's not going to be relevant anymore. It may drive traffic for your channel because it's some content, but it's not relevant anymore. And so the projects and the stuff you're using every day are much more important in terms of long-term viewing, like the evergreen, like Joel was talking about. And that's where we're going to start seeing a lot of these channels going towards, and not this review, this quickie, oh, I'm happy with this for today. You know, we're going to start seeing, like, I watch Daniel Norrie's stuff all the time, and I'm more interested in what printers he's printing with than some review, because I want to know what printer is sitting in that background that he's printing with all the time. Which one's his go-to? You know, not this brand new, what's out today kind of thing, because it's going to change tomorrow. But I want to know what's on his desk 6 months from now.
So a couple of things. I'm going to jump in here. One, Matt, if that's your French, I got to teach you way more French. We can get way better swearing in there.
I was keeping it.
Keith, as far as Daniel, it's pretty much always a Zix.
I know.
At least that, yeah. And let me tell you, the Zix was awesome. When we had it for a little while, loved that thing. I wanted to jump in because as we started talking about affiliate links and Chuck started to jump in on this, we started talking about something that's been popping up back and forth within the chat for a little while now, which is kind of the question of integrity when we start talking about YouTube channels doing reviews and who's getting what for doing it and that kind of stuff. And I actually think it ties back to the topic that we're really talking about, or we started the night talking about, which is that, you know, when you're getting pre-production units, should you be talking about that? And I think it's an important topic. I mean, there have been comments in the chat about, you know, people should be disclosing what their relationship is with a company and what their relationship is with a particular product, so that we get some extra clarity. People in the community, new people or people who have experience in the community, are looking at, you know, what really is happening. Is this really the best printer under $500, or did, you know, Creality decide to send Chuck 6 CR10 minis and Chuck is going to go out there and say this is exactly, you know, what should be happening. So I think there's a lot that kind of ties in here, and I just wanted to throw that out there and really get your thoughts, the rest of the panel's thoughts on it.
I don't think affiliate links are bad if the relationship is, I like this product, I'm going to recommend this product. I'm going to go look to see if there's an affiliate link. If you're going out there and getting the affiliate link, and then because of the affiliate link recommending the product, that's the wrong way, and that's where we run into issues. I've seen it for years. I've seen it with Bluehost. The reason so many companies recommend Bluehost for hosting, they've got a great affiliate program. I mean, it's phenomenal, but that's the wrong reason. That's the wrong reason to promote it, because of the affiliate program. If you like the product and you're genuinely going to recommend the product, there's nothing wrong with getting some money for the channel by recommending it if you were going to recommend it anyways. It's just getting some free money to support the channel, because it's really hard to get people to support the channel anyways. So if you're going to already recommend the product and go look for the affiliate link and then get it, great. But if your reason for recommending the product is because they've got a great affiliate program, then I question you.
Well, I mean, if you're recommending a product that's junk anyway, it's gonna bite you. You know, I mean, it may not be an overnight thing, but it's gonna bite you.
Well, and I think that's where you come back to the pre-production stuff. You know, Chris Riley from Chris's Basement's in the chat, so he can kind of speak up to this. Him and somebody else, I forget who. The Ender 2, I think it was. Oh, it was James from Print and Play. They both got, I think it was the Ender 2, and they ordered them around the same time and got totally different printers, different hardware, different directions, different in a lot of ways. So, you know, that's one of the issues with pre-production is, you know, if you don't know it, which I think Chuck might have said that in a lot of cases you aren't aware, the printer manufacturer doesn't tell you, or the product manufacturer doesn't tell you this is a pre-production unit. Was that correct, Chuck?
Yeah. I've never been told a pre-production unit, even though it was obvious I got one.
Yeah. So it's a hard place for any content creator or reviewer or influencer to make that distinction in some cases. Like, I agree 100%, Nick. If you've got details on how everything works with you and manufacturer, disclose that. And people can only take it at face value, unfortunately. You still have the people who don't believe that. Sorry, I'm laughing at Robbie Mac.
But like you know, you talk about it. It doesn't go back to the affiliate, but it's like I did a video showing the bad couplings on the CR10 Mini, and I found that over time, it wasn't bad out of the box. It printed fine for months, but then it failed, and then Angus ended up having a similar kind of thing on the Ender 3. But I felt I had every right to say that. I bought the machine, you know, and I wanted people who have seen me use this on the channel and said I think it's a really good printer. In fact, I have said it's the best for under $300 because if you ask me, in my opinion, of everything I've used, it is the best under $300 for the build size and everything else. But that's in my limited space of, you know, there may be something better out there I haven't used. But I wanted it out there. It's like, oh, there's a problem, and this is how you can fix it. And I recommend you fix it. And a lot of people really appreciated that. And I got that video got great reviews and great results. And I felt good about it. So it's only so much you can do, but that one I felt good about.
Chat's talking about my beard. Yeah, I think, you know, if you say this, if you get a printer and you say this printer is absolute crap, and you have the affiliate link in the description and don't have above it, buyer beware, buy at your own risk. But, you know, you said in the video, this printer's junk. But, you know, I'm still going to make some money on it. I don't know that I can necessarily.
That's going to bite you.
But you know what I mean? Like, you've done the work. The affiliate links, to an extent, are because you've done the work. You've put the time into doing the video, to working with the printer. That's to an extent your compensation. Now, would I agree with, a reviewer saying this printer is absolute crap, but the affiliate link's down there, go ahead and purchase it? No, I mean, that would be letting the community down, or letting your viewers down by doing that. But like Chuck has, how many did you say? 10 CR10 minis? I mean, you rave about that printer all the time.
Yeah, I got 6 running full time. I got 2 in the box that are eventually going to be opened up. So I'll have 8. But along that line, though, I did do that. I mean, I had that $154 eBay printer, and I came out and told you it's a piece of crap, don't buy it. And I had people ask me, where do I buy it? I can't find it on eBay. And I go, you serious? Okay, so I put a link in the description, but in the video I said, don't buy this.
Right.
So was I wrong for putting it in there? Maybe. But I had so many people ask me for the link.
Same thing with this E12, Chuck. I mean, I literally put in the description of my video, I cannot recommend buying this printer. And I had people reach out to me and ask me if I had an affiliate link for it. And I'm like, are you sure you want to buy it? Yeah, it's the best bang for the buck for that size. And I'm like, okay. So I put the links back in, and I've had people buy it since then. It says right in the link, I don't recommend buying this, but here's the link if you want to go buy one.
Well, I think people want a challenge. I mean,
people wanted to buy the Huni after Angus' experience with the Huni.
I bought my TiVo Tarantula. I bought it off Craigslist. Somebody else bought it. They couldn't get it working. They sold it to somebody else who tore it down completely without directions, put it all back together, still couldn't get it printing, and I bought it from them off Craigslist. After knowing all the bad reviews at the time that the TiVo Tarantula was getting. I bought it because I wanted the challenge. Now, I didn't buy it through anybody's affiliate link or anything because I bought it used, but
I'm sure you also got a screamingly good deal on it.
I did. It was $100
retail for a machine that you were going to have to go through trouble with. And some of the kickback that I got was that, maybe you got a bad one because other people say it's an okay printer. And I'm like, sure, that's always a possibility. Go for it.
And when we're talking these sub 1,000, sub 5, especially sub 500, that's
Angus
very
is in the chat.
Yeah, Angus is here.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He's got a great question in the chat, actually, about, how crap does a machine need to be to not put an affiliate code, do you think? And noted his own experience there. I don't know, Angus. My personal experience is the only printer I'm really using is the ANET, and it's not an ANET anymore. I ripped that thing apart, and the only reason I wanted that was so that I could tinker with it specifically. So that I could screw up a printer that cost nothing if that were the case. And if not, I was going to feel magical when I brought it to life and it actually printed something.
I don't know. I want to sleep at night, so I'm not putting an affiliate link for anything that's junk. I'm sorry. It's just, no, it's not happening.
I think that's really personal preference.
It is. Yeah. It is very much so.
I want to take the chance because Angus was saying in the chat if he had any questions for him. I want to ask him about, did he have any communications beforehand with Creality about his machine being a pre-production unit, or did he have any a document saying this is not a final product, or was it sent to him as a full-blown product for review?
I did send Angus the link, Twitter DM. Angus, if you want to jump on the stream, the link's there for you. Yeah, I think it's totally preference. I wouldn't fault anybody for putting the link in or not putting the link in. I think it's really...
Oh, I'm not going to fault anybody if they want to put an affiliate link on something that I wouldn't put an affiliate link on. That's like you said, it's entirely personal preference. And I'm not going to fault them for that.
NLTMW, Mike said in the chat a little bit ago, the affiliate link is your return on investment. Every content creator has investment in the time it takes to make this video, edit the video, in Joel's case, pay an editor to edit the video together, upload it, and then also to deal with the feedback, the comment, respond to comments, respond to Twitter, in some cases respond to the abuse that they get for a good review or a bad review or whatever. Unfortunately, I think it's an unavoidable thing to not have to deal with that kind of feedback. the negative feedback from it. Some of that is because of reviewers that are dishonest. That'll tell you the biggest piece of crap that they've ever bought is the best thing they've ever bought.
Well, some of that happened too because of GearBest, right? I mean, GearBest was sending printers to anybody that wanted one, and here's a link, and you can make some money. That wasn't the case. That isn't the case with all affiliates,
right?
So that tainted things a bit. Now, it was really cool because a lot of channels got printers that couldn't get them before. So in that respect, it was excellent, right? But like anything that's good, someone's going to abuse it, and that's what happened. And you know, we kind of pay the price for that. But that's why I backed away from GearBest, just because of some of their practices of what they were doing, and why I stuck with a company I trust that still can sell at the same price range. So someone can get started for a low cost without having to worry about that crap.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about, like when you have an affiliate link on your channel to Amazon, and you just have let's say you're featuring a filament you bought on Amazon, but then you go and buy some other stuff, but you use that link that will support the channel you came from. So in that regard, that affiliate link is just basically helping the channel regardless of the project or product featured exactly in that video. So that's maybe a good way for content creators to get revenue. It's just to have links to those sites.
Angus did say, to answer Martin's question to him, the email, the correspondence with Creality said exactly this. We are official Creality 3D from Shenzhen, and really like you to test our latest dual extruder 3D printer, CRX. What do you think?
He did follow it up, Matt, by saying there could be a translation issue around
I was just looking
as well. So
yeah. But
thanks, Nick.
It's basically the same text as Joel was describing with his communication. They were saying, "Here's our latest and greatest. Can you test it out?" So yes.
Well, and another point. I mean, if these companies are only sending stuff to Angus and to Joel because of their presence on YouTube, so they have to know that printer is going to end up on YouTube, because that's what we and they do. So I mean, they can't even blame it on, well, we just sent it to you to check it out. We never said to put it online. I mean, just communication. There needs to be more communication.
How's those supports coming off, Chuck?
They need to hire a person that can translate well between Chinese and English. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Martin totally got where I was going.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise, Jack.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, just like
I should have went mute.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, like Glenn said, it's all about the expected communication that you can relay that communication to your viewers. If you're doing something like, I have a small channel and I would love to try something out, and I would just explain that in the video. I got this to try it out. But if I was sent it in the context of having just doing a review, that's a total different content that you create as a review or just to test something out. So you really have to get more information from the manufacturers.
So I know the main topic is obviously this situation with the CRX that's come up over the last few weeks. Since Angus is in the chat too, just another question that I'd like to ask him. I did ask him in the chat when he got his printer versus when they went on pre-order / for purchase. He said he got his printer on the 16th of July. So, I mean, that the CRX was up for pre-order right around that time, I believe. So, you know, they sent him, if I received that from them, I would expect that this is what they're doing the pre-orders for, is this printer. But I think, you know, with Joel's video, the frustration that Joel had is, I wish he was here to kind of back this up, and maybe Angus can answer the same thing. The frustration with it is, you know, you're sending it to me to test it. I'm an end user to an extent. Don't send me something that really should still be in development. I think Joel even said that in his video, pretty much that. You're sending me a unit that really needs to be put back in the oven and needs to be continued to work on a little bit before you sell this to people. I'd like to know if Angus, if that's kind of his opinion. I didn't get to see Angus's stream or video when he got his, but that would kind of be my opinion of it. And it kind of makes, even as a small channel, makes me want to shy away from doing any kind of reviews. I unboxed my Power Spec Mini, which is a Wanhao Di3 Mini. I unboxed it live and did the first couple of prints with it live, but I said what I liked and didn't like about the printer, and that was it. It really wasn't a review. It was, you know, here's the experience out of the box with it, and take it for what you want.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, many YouTubers are going away from the official review thing because it's like Jack was saying, it's maybe relevant at this time when you get the printer, but after 6 months, it's not really so relevant. But you're experiencing, like the unboxing experience on the first print, that's always gives you value to see how the product was packaged and how it was prepared for the end user. So, but yeah, and like if you do a project or a follow-up video half a year later and saying this is now my go-to printer because it's doing well, that's really good value for the end user to see a video on that.
That's what I did with my A8 before I disassembled it and turned it into the AM8, but I called it a progress report, not a review. I didn't want to put the word review on there. So which, by the way, I never made one of those for my Prusa because everybody knows that those just work and work and work and work.
Yeah, I did like initial thoughts on my MK3 printer. Never did a official review, so to speak.
Yeah, Angus did kind of confirm what my assumptions were with their videos on it. He said the only fair way to approach is as the end user, because otherwise it's misleading, and quite frankly, he said lying to the end user or the viewer if you're not approaching it as if you are a new user or the end user.
Yeah, I've seen some videos saying, okay, this is my review of the printer, and at the time of review, the reviewer has printed out replacement parts and fixed a lot of issues, and at that point the printer is quite good, but the review should always be an unmodified printer, in my opinion. The other thing is like a follow-up video on what you can do to fix the initial issues, but the review should always be what you get out of the box. In my opinion, at least.
Chuck, you have a Prusa, right? Oh. He came running back. Chuck, you have a Prusa printer, right? You have two of them. You're muted, Chuck.
I forgot.
Do you have the MMU for it?
No, I've got two MK2s, but I don't have an MMU.
Were you ever? It's a question that keeps coming up in the chat about reviews of the Prusas and the MMU. Were you ever offered one for review at all from Prusa?
No, Joseph never offered me one. I did see the 2.0 at the Detroit Maker Faire. It definitely looked a lot better, more solid unit. They told me some of the improvements they made. So there was definitely, problems with the first one they knew of that they were working through. Again, they're working towards fixing it. But no, I never got one because what I saw at New York Maker Faire when I first saw it, it looked like a little bit more work than I wanted to get into. So I didn't even push to get one. Joseph didn't offer me one anyway. And I didn't have a lot of use for multicolor, although I've seen some really cool stuff, like come out of A-Buzz Design and such. But no, I wasn't really sold on it. And but I saw the 2.0. I think that's going to be pretty good if someone is interested in that.
Yeah.
So I will jump in. Not that I ever use the Prusas that we have here.
Lawrence smacks your fingers when you try.
Yeah, no, those are Lawrence, and I'm not screwing with that. That is not a battle that needs to be fought and would never be won. So we do have an MK2 and we have an MK3, and the MK2 actually has the MMU version 1 on it, and I believe there's an order for the MMU version 2 that may end up on the MK3 at some point. And just through my anecdotal evidence of watching Lauren play with it time and time again, it has definitely had its issues on occasion, but she's got it running pretty well. And as Chuck was saying, I'm just going to steal some stuff here that's sitting around on the workbench. As Chuck was saying, you can actually get some really good multi-material, multi-color stuff that's going on it. It's actually printing behind me, so if you guys hear noise, that's it. She's working on some more stuff. I don't, I'll be honest, I don't know, I can't recall if she actually did a review on it on the Buzz Designs channel or not. I would have to ask her about that, and she's currently probably designing something, I don't know, or asleep on the couch, one of the two. So yeah, I reading in the chat, I've been following up on that too, and that particular stream has kind of gone in a couple of different areas. I believe beta units were probably sent out on the MMU version 1, which would bring us right back to the conversation about pre-production and beta units and what it looks like to do reviews on those and reaching out to that kind of stuff. I will say from my perspective, I don't know if I would be extremely trusting of a review on a beta unit or a pre-production unit, and I don't know, having not done a lot of having not done any reviews on things really, I don't know if it would be fair to actually do the review on a pre-production or a beta unit. I think that would be more of a, hey, this is what's coming. These are things that could potentially look good about this product. These are things that could potentially be issues. Use us in that regard. I just think it would be extremely difficult to pretend you were an end user, and maybe Chuck's got more feedback on this, or Angus in the chat, anybody probably has more experience with this than I do on this particular topic. I just think it would be really hard to be an end user or look at being an end user with a beta unit, which nobody may see after that. So
yeah, but one of the things that people keep overlooking is that the MMU version 1 from Joseph Prusa was not originally their design. It was an open source design that was out there available elsewhere. They were just the first people to put it on their printer as it came off the shelf, and not an add-on unit that you had to build. They were the first ones to put it into a package and go, here it is for this printer. The MMU version 1 was available as a add-on kit for just about any printer for several months before Prusa got a hold of it, put an E3D hot end on it, and then put it on their printers. So people going, oh, it failed. Well, it wasn't their design to begin with. It was something they took, put it on there, and then quickly iterated to MMU version 2 because they saw better ways to do it.
Yeah, that's sort of the early adopters side of things. And Real quick, I got a question for Tinkers, but Joe Mike, speak up real quick.
What?
There's the new addition to the Terranella clan.
Oh. Yeah, she just had to change her twice and then do another cluster feeding, and now she's just kind of chilling.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted her to get her debut on F3D PCH.
Say hi to the
Newest member of the family.
Youngest host ever.
Right there. What do you think about 3D printing and 3D printers going to be reviewed before they're ready to be reviewed, Savannah?
It'd be really great if she started crying right about that.
Yeah.
So you just, Joe Mike, you had to, like one up Xander. Xander was the youngest host, and then you come and one up that.
Well, get busy on another one there.
You wait till the next fart in the bag, buddy.
Yeah. You wait for the diaper in the bag, buddy.
So the question I had for Tinkers, you've messed with quite a few multi-material setups. I don't know that you've done anything with the Prusa MMU, but correct me if I'm wrong. My experience with multi-material, I have two different setups. My Delta, I have a Y configuration, two extruders, one nozzle going into a Y, which is essentially what the MMU 1.0 is, except they're doing it 4 times.
Right.
And then I have a side-by-side, the FlashForge Dreamer setup. You've done a lot with IDEX systems. I know you've messed with a palette. I don't know if you still have that. Any MMU, correct me if I'm wrong, Shane from Prusa posted in the chat about the MMU 1.0 takes a lot of tinkering to get it to work. Any MMU at this point takes a lot of tinkering to get it set up, at least from my experience and what I see on Twitter.
Look up in the corner there. That is the Polyprime. So that's being printed with the Palette Plus. And I'm going to zoom out of this view real quick just to show you, because I showed you guys this earlier, but I had to stand up a Motion OS or Motion iOS just so I could keep tabs on all the moving parts of the system. So obviously I've got the Chet Prusa. It's named in honor of Chuck there because it's the red version. But I've got its main camera feed being fed into here, and then I have my Bluza camera actually pointed at this thing right now so I can see the filament tube just to make sure that there's no breaks on the splices. And then I'm also watching my filament supply because while we were at the hospital, red almost ran out on me. I was able to pause the print before it did, but I was really glad I set that up before we went. And then I watched a scroll wheel because 9 times out of 10 when there's a break, it happens right here at this scroll wheel, the encoder, which is what sends back to the palette, how many millimeters of filament have passed through since this is a direct drive system. So all these moving parts just to get, a good multicolor print going. And like Shane said, this palette was, in the scheme of things, relatively simple to set up, but still, in comparison to just normal 3D printing, the average user would probably punch themselves in the face several times trying to get this thing properly calibrated with their hot end setup, with their extruder assembly. Heck, I've been doing this for years, and it even frustrated me. I went through the calibration process, I think 4 times before I was finally happy with the transition points on it. And even then I extended out the transition length just to be a little safe, a little margin of error. So yeah, multi-material and multi-color, whereas it's makes amazing results, it's still a pain in the butt to use. And
it's still in its infancy.
It really is.
The palette's a wonderful device. It's a huge time sink in terms of getting it calibrated, which is extremely frustrating for even a skilled 3D printer. I mean, the loading on the pallet itself, between the time it starts splicing the filament to get to your extruder, is good 7-8 minutes just to get it to your direct drive extruder. And that's just starting the print, you know, let alone actually getting the print. And then if you break at that jog wheel, you've got to do that all over again. And so, yeah, I mean, I've had the Y configuration using the Prometheus system on a Delta. I've had 2 IDEX systems. The only thing I haven't had is 2 nozzles on the same hot end, you know, like the Chimera or a Raise. One of those. I've not had any of those. But dual extrusion, whether it be IDEX, I mean, IDEX is great. I like IDEX because of some of the other configurations. But if those nozzles aren't at the right height compared to each other, it's a nightmare. I mean, they all require tinkering. A lot of it. It's not an easy thing.
That was the big thing with the 2 nozzle configuration, with 2 nozzles being on the same hot end or on the same X carriage. So not IDEX, but you know, like you're talking about the Chimera. You know, if you're off by microns, you're hosed. You know, it's like you got to be perfect in sync layer height wise, which is cool. Which is why I really like being able to print from a single nozzle. Which the palette gives me that ability. The MMU from Prusa also has that ability. The one thing I will say is I did get a chance to take a look at the MMU 2.0 as well, and oh my gosh, is that thing making me drool at the mouth right now. I really like the design and how they use the rotating drum system to kind of do the filament selection, and it just seems like a really, you know, good system. You stick filament color in, you print it, you pull filament color out, it goes to the next color, puts it in, takes it out. You don't have all these Bowden tubes running to your hot end. You have a single tube running to your hot end. You're not doing any splicing, so there's no chance of splice breaks. There's no need for an encoder wheel. It just loads a predefined length because it knows, and then it pulls it back out again. So I believe that the MMU 2.0 is actually probably a step in the really good right direction for multi-material printing. That, and we're upping it to 5 materials now. So not only can you do your 4 colors like you can with the palette or the MMU 1, but now you can also add in that soluble support material as your 5th. And throw that into the mix. So,
or you can just put the palette on the FormBot, which is an IDEX system. No, just kidding.
One thing that I was playing with the idea of throwing out there to palette was to see if they've ever hooked up a palette, 2 palettes to a dual extruding system and used 8 colors on 2 extruding heads.
If I hadn't blown up my palette, that was my plan, to put it on the. My palette had, I was in the middle of doing it had some issues. I was trying to get the diagnostics to run, and the palette let the blue smoke out, and I was like, oh, great. So my palette's down, which is why I haven't done anything on it lately. But based on what I could see from the slicing and everything, it is entirely possible on an IDEX system to run it off of 2 different heads. So you could have 8 colors. You could have one go into the right head and then the other palette go into the left head. It would take some creative post-processing in your slicer stuff, but it looks very possible. Yes.
The only thing that I saw as being a possible hiccup in that is that, I mean, in my slicer, I can go up to 8 heads. No problem. 8 tool heads. No problem. However, the palette itself recognizes tools 0 through 3 and nothing else. So the second palette would have to be configured to recognize tools 4 through 7.
Right, which is my plan was to simply parse the file afterwards with a kind of a simple find and replace using a high-end text editor.
Gotcha. So Notepad ++ it and replace all the zeros with
exactly Notepad ++ to the rescue.
Replace all the
Take
4s
out
with 0s and
Yep.
5s with
Yep.
1s. You, sir,
Now you got
are a man of my own heart.
If we can circle back around, because Paul in the chat did ask a valid question that I'd like to address, and of course now it's gone, but it was something along the lines of, do YouTubers give special treatment to certain manufacturers in regards to reviews? And I would like to say, me personally, absolutely not. But in fairness, if I already have a relationship with that manufacturer and that manufacturer communicates with me, it's going to be a better video. It's going to be a better interaction because there is communication there. As where if you get something to review, a printer or otherwise, and you can't communicate with the manufacturer, you can't get any information, you can't get replacement parts or whatever, then you're going to end up with an E12 and you're not going to get a very good outcome from it. So anybody else?
Yeah, I don't think anybody gives a particular favoritism just to a particular brand. I think it has all to do with the communication and the relationship that develops based on that communication. The more you can actually get information going back and forth to do what you need to do, that's where you're going to see favoritism, if you want to call it that. But that, I don't see it as necessarily somebody that's like, oh, I'm going to show this company more love than another.
Well, and so my side of that, if I'm trying to think how to word this that it comes across the way I intend for it to, if I have a good past with a manufacturer, Creality, they got a lot of heat for the CRX, and honestly, I still give them props because within a few days of Angus and Joel getting the CRXs, putting their videos out, Creality came back with, look, these guys were right. Creality themselves took that as constructive criticism and went back to the drawing board to fine-tune things. Honestly, that to me says a lot, the fact that they did that. Now, take the situation with Robo and the R2. They basically have a lot of users out there who have that printer, who have the same or similar problems, the auto bed leveling. I don't know anybody who has an R2 that is using the auto bed leveling. They've all turned it off because it doesn't work. Robo supposedly has a fix for that, but the people who bought that printer in the past aren't getting that fix.
But the one thing that I want to know, just on the quick tangent of the R2 leveling, so Braden had an R2 out at Murph, and I watched him start from finish, start a print, use the auto bed leveling, and it worked. So I want to know, is his unit different in some regards? Why does his unit's auto bed leveling work, and other people are having such a difficult time with it? Because with my own eyes, I've seen one work.
Right. I think their response to it, I've seen where they've said, yeah, just don't use the auto bed leveling, but no long-term solution for it. That's a feature that they sold with that printer that a lot of people aren't going to get it.
Yeah, and that's crap. It's
right.
Not a solution. That's a workaround.
So for me, Robo to catch more heat for that than, let's say, let's use the example of Prusa or Lulzbot. Yeah, there's printers that have problems. One, I know from a lot of people, not just content creators, but people who've been in the chat, people I've interacted with on Twitter, the 3D printing group, for the say the Prusa tech support and the support that they give. Walter, when he put his printer together, Prusa, I think it was Shane from Prusa, sat in his live stream in the chat the entire time and answered any questions he had.
Yeah.
I think, yes, Prusa does get a little bit of, in my opinion, because of that, they get a little bit of leeway and a little bit more room to make a mistake than somebody who has a huge selling printer like the CR10 or the CR10 Mini or the Ender series. and all of a sudden just drops this product out there and says, "Hey, can you test it?"
So I would
make a product.
I would say that for me, I look at companies who innovate versus companies who copy. Companies who copy, I will like go over their, product and go, well, it's, an i3 clone, and it's got this and this and this, which is nice. Other printers have this and this and this. If it's something that's actually innovative, it's got me peaked a little bit more, So it's not really brand specific; it's more innovation specific.
Right.
So when flex steel became very much a integral part to 3D printing, and the MK3 came out with the flex steel, the MK3 came out with, the Bondtech gears incorporated into the extruder design without having to have an actual Bondtech extruder in Bowden, and the filament sensor and all this other stuff that people were already doing, but Prusa was able to engineer it all into pretty much the same form factor and machine as their MK2. You're sitting there going, that's really nice engineering. There's a lot of thought and that went into that. Plus, there's some new stuff we haven't seen before. And that's like what I'm saying with like the MMU 2.0. So, that kind of stuff I will treat more delicately than I would a clone. So if, the CR10 versus the Hicktop CR10 versus the, whatever CR10, they're all copies of copies. And at that point, it's just like, do I go through the which one is the winner of the copy contest? Who's the winner of the losers, pretty much. But I like to see companies innovate. And with that, I think we should probably talk to this guy, Chris.
Before you guys,
Yeah.
I gotta go.
everybody.
I'll see you guys. I gotta go. Sorry, Chris, but I gotta take it off. So
Bad timing.
thanks, everybody.
Chuck.
Bye, Chuck.
Chuck.
Wait bye to your Uncle Chuck.
Bye,
Yeah.
Chuck.
Hey, Chuck, do you want to do your outro real quick before you go?
Yeah, I want
Yeah,
to.
sure. Chuck Hellebuyck at filamentfriday.com. Take you right to my YouTube channel at Chuck Hellebuyck on Twitter. And thanks for watching.
See you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck. See you.
See you guys.
Yeah, I want to do like one round of outros before we continue, and I'll just continue from left to right as before. So, Chris, you're up. You can do your intro and outro.
All right.
Before we continue.
Okay. I'm Chris Lane. I am the founder of Venturi 3D, which is currently on Kickstarter, and I figured I had some input on this. Too bad I came in so late to the stream, but I did want to mention a couple things about our project and our thoughts on the whole situation. So that's my intro.
Yeah, thank you. Glenn and Sander, you're up.
Well, Xander's half asleep over here, but hello, everybody. I'm Glenn.
I'm Xander.
And together we are FunKing 3D. We are a father and son team that does 3D printing and some electronic projects. When Xander's not sleeping, he's working on his Xander's Thing Thursdays, which airs every Thursday at 12 Eastern Standard Time. And right now my big project is the FK1, which will be the world's greatest 3D printer ever. Right? Is that how I'm supposed to do it?
Yeah.
We can be found everywhere at FunKing3D, youtube.com/FunKing3D. FunKing3D.com is probably the easiest place to find us because it'll link you to everywhere else that we are.
Yeah, thank you. And Joe Mike, you're up.
My name is Joe Mike. This is my burp rag. I am on Twitter. I've got a YouTube channel. Right now, since I've got a newborn, I'm not doing too much on the YouTube channel. However, I am in the process of, if you look up in the corner here, I'm going through all the Amazon basics PLAs. I got the sample kit, so I'm printing out a swatch and a tree frog for each one, and I'll be posting my results of all that on probably Twitter and Instagram. And then I've also got the long-term project, which is what kind of we were talking about with the multicolor printing. This is Chaos Cortec, Garrett. This is his Optimus Prime model, but I'm printing it completely out of polyalchemy elixir. So it's going to shine like it's pimped out. So it's also taking forever because polyalchemy's best shine comes at 35 millimeters a second. And it's also multicolor, so it's got the purge tower. So far, I think we're 6 days into this torso and a lot to go. So that's what I've been doing, and you can follow all that by following me on Twitter at Mojike and my Instagram on jtaranella. And like I said, I'm a new father, so I may not be 100% active at all times, but late at night I seem to be more active now than I was before. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, thank you. And Matt, you're next.
I'm Matt from How I Do It. I do a lot of random things. Basically, my channel is kind of just an outlet for the way I do things. I never claim that they're the best way or necessarily the correct way. It's just the way I do it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/How I Do It, Twitter @Country Cowboy. I'm really active on Twitter. Instagram and Facebook, more so used for personal stuff, but I am active on there as well and following the 3D printing groups. I try to jump in and give some help in the 3D printing groups at times when a post is new and doesn't have 300 comments on it. So you'll see me around everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. And Nick, you're up.
I'm Nick. I am the silent part, which is rare for me, but I am the silent part of a Buzz Designs most of the time. The off-screen presence, I'll put it that way. Van Full of Puppies on Twitter, and possibly Van Full of Puppies coming to YouTube sometime soon, maybe. Recently given the name Sir Nix-a-Lot by somebody else in this panel, maybe because I like big prints and I cannot lie. You other fellas can't deny.
Our common love of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Monty Python does not hurt either, but you know the whole Sir Mix-a-Lot, Sir Nix-a-Lot, Monty Python, it all works out really well. Yeah, so that's me. Van Full of Puppies is not an OF. It's not Van Full of Puppies. It's actually an A because Twitter cuts you off with a bunch of things. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Keith, you're up.
I'm Keith, or Tinkers on almost every type of media there is. Tinkers.net's the website, _Tinkers for Twitter, Instagram, and I do have a YouTube channel that I'm starting to put stuff on, finally getting over my fear of being on camera. That's kind of why I'm here tonight. I'm not opinionated at all, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And he's the keeper of all the transition protopasta spools.
Yes, maybe.
I need another roll of that really nice, like succulent green, Keith, if you can work that out.
Yeah,
they didn't see any in there today.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm last in row, so I'm Marteinn, and you can try to say my name, but if you say Marteinn, it's pretty close. And you're on my channel, 3DP Iceland. I do a lot of filament testing and reviews, but what I'm mostly known for is those 3D printed and painted landscapes. I print those out in high detail and paint them. And I started to do that on a live stream on my channel. It's good fun, and I've been doing a lot of those and brought like 12 of those to Earth and gave away, and have great fun doing those and giving away. And that's me. But I have before we continue and let Chris jump in on his thoughts on the multi-material, I want to make an announcement for the Friday Hangouts. I reached out to several European YouTubers and makers and asked if they were interested in doing European time zone friendly Hangouts. I got pretty good response, and we are doing on next Friday at 7 o'clock GMT 0. That's like London Standard Time. On next Friday, we are doing hangout similar format as this one, and now the Friday hangouts will be one in the US time zone friendly and one in the Europe time zone friendly. So I have already scheduled a video on my channel that you can look up and see if your living situations is close to that time zone that we have here in Europe. We will have to see how many people we get on, and but I'm hoping to get at least few people to start with, and more will probably join later. So that was an announcement I want to make and make everyone aware of that. So I'll give the floor a chance to continue the talk, and want to get Chris to start, because he was just about to jump in before I jumped in with the outros. So.
That's okay. Yeah, that's what happens when I get here at time, 2-hour mark. So just wanted to mention a couple things, since this is part of the discussion that we're having regarding beta units and multi-material units as well. Obviously, since we are offering a new printer on Kickstarter, and it is a multi-material unit that is loosely based on the Prusa 1.0, I figured I can speak to this in a bit. So yes, in a normal situation when you have a kit and you have to do a lot of the setup yourself, there had been some issues with the 1.0. In our research, what we did is we took a look at the Prusa forums, took a look at what other people were doing to have better results. Some of it's slicer settings, some of it's just a different type of splitter. We worked on several iterations of the splitter. We think we're getting it more reliable. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting close enough to the point where we think that we've got most of the kinks worked out. And mostly it has to do with what type of material it is, retraction, and not having a blob that basically interferes with like the steel tubing, for example, which we're not using anymore. So getting all of that sorted out was a long process. It's about to take us a few more months to get set up, and do need to do a couple more time-lapse videos. That's what I'm trying to say, of some multicolor prints, because we really need to have those on the Kickstarter page. But yeah, we are working on that. And also Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm planning to have a live stream regarding the overall project. So 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have it on Adventure 3D official channel. So you can hang out with us. I might do a hangout officially. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. And we'll have some stuff done at that time to show off, and hopefully the printer is doing a live print at the time as well. So that was part of that. Regarding the beta testing of the units, we've also had feedback from people in the community regarding whether we should send out beta test units to the market and to different YouTubers.
I volunteer as tribute.
Yes, a lot of people have volunteered. There's a good and bad about that. First of all, there was a lot of difficulty. A lot of the bigger YouTubers had such a backlog of printers that they hadn't even reviewed yet. Number two, we got the prototype finished, the prototype working well. And I'm of the classic Kickstarter mode where I'm thinking that we have a proof of concept, we have everything working at least reliable up to a point, and that we can market this, and then Kickstarter to finish development of a printer or whatever device it is before you send it out to the backers. That's our thought process on that. People have disagreed with that, which is fine. There's always different ideas about certain things. And of course, if you send a beta unit out and it is complete, and then something bad happens during the review process, that may not help your campaign. Even if you're getting publicity to it, they might not help out if you're, if it drives you away or whatever. So there's always good and bad, and also there's more cost and shipping costs, stuff like that. So that's kind of our thought process about whether to send out beta units before the Kickstarter. We are going to definitely have a lot of test units once we get the production. If we get funded, we'll get the production going, and then we can send out people to test, help us test out the units and stuff like that.
Shane from Prusha's in the chat, and he said, cough, cough, close beta, cough, better way to go, cough.
Yeah.
I guess in the beginning,
volunteers tribute.
Well, you could consider it an alpha testing instead of a beta testing. You alpha test it with some people not on camera to polish it up, and then you beta test it out on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as it was pointed out, I've played with a lot of multi-material units. I could certainly give some feedback on the multi-material.
Yeah.
Ditto.
What a bunch of beggars!
And right now, I'm hardly recording jack squat. So
I want one.
Well, in fairness, this goes back to something that I've been preaching since we were a wee little YouTube channel, that manufacturers need to send printers out to smaller channels. It's not always about, and I don't know if Angus is still in the chat, but it's not always about Angus and Joel. It can go to smaller channels. Find somebody, with the 1,000 subscriber mark, because they could use the boost as well.
Absolutely.
In the chat, somebody's asking how close we're getting funded. Pretty far, but we've got about just under a month to go. Still trying to get publicity. We're covered by a lot of 3D printing news sites. We're on All 3DP. We're on 3D Print Industry. We're on Fabaloo. So we're getting coverage, but we haven't gotten a whole lot of backers yet. So we're determining the next steps after that. So again, like I said, plans to have a Sunday stream if everything goes right, and then we'll send out a course on Twitter from there.
So, Chris, do you have a functional unit?
Yes.
Okay. So you should totally try to do what you should totally try to do what Mark did with like the Moai, and he just sent one printer to one YouTuber that worked, and people felt a little bit better about the Kickstarter campaign, because we've all been burned by 3D printing Kickstarter campaign. Well, not all of us, but most of us. Right. So to see it in action with someone who messes with a lot of printers, I am not volunteering myself, by the way, but like I'm saying, like, maybe have Chuck take a look at it. Chuck is so like engineering minded and focused that he'd be able to say, yeah, this concept is great and it prints well, and I can see where they can make a couple of improvements, but this is a Kickstarter printer, and those improvements could be easily implemented before the end of the Kickstarter. So you should look into it.
Yeah, I mean, we had it running at Earth, the East Coast Rip Out Festival. We had it running there with fine, and a lot of people saw it and stuff like that. So we're getting people who didn't go there and didn't know about that, but we have it posted on our website, that kind of thing. And I believe we've also got videos on the Kickstarter in the prototype section of it running and everything. So, I mean, it's got all that going for it. But yeah, we just hadn't sent out a specific quote-unquote review unit I mean, yeah, that's a good idea. If there's anything that happens that we have to relaunch or whatever, then we can definitely plan for something a little bit different.
I'm just saying, if you send one to me, I will put my daughter in it and take a picture and put it all over the place.
Hey, that's how we got our Part Daddy vase. We put Bailey in it. Just to answer the question about as far as how far the Kickstarter is, a little bit more specifically, I'm looking at it right now. The goal is 180,000. The current pledge is 11,694 with 42 backers. Chris said 28 days to go, and ends on September 8th, 2018 at 7:59 a.m. Eastern.
Right, which it sounds like a lot, but that's a little bit less than 200 printers sold, which seemed feasible at the time when we launched it. We're getting a lot of people saying, well, you should start at like a $50,000 goal instead of that, even though technically we would have needed a bit more than 50,000. The idea is that psychology-wise, if it's already funded, a lot of people will be more apt to back it once it is quote-unquote funded. So it's a psychology play more than an actual technical play.
So, well, if you want to talk psychology, feel free to send one over this way. I will put it through therapeutic standpoint. I mean, we'll be good to go.
Angus said in the chat, the Moai printer went out to 3 people. 1 fell through, but 2 were good. But he took 6 months of in-house testing before sending it out to us, whoever us is. I'm assuming Angus being one of those us.
Right.
Sorry, just trying to keep up with chat and what they have to say.
Well, and back a little ways, Angus agreed with me that, yes, manufacturers should send them out to smaller channels because they're going to get airtime.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm passionate about that. I just think it's a win-win for manufacturers to not send 1 printer to Angus and 1 printer to Joel. They should send 10 printers out to 10 small channels and get some airtime. I'm not talking about just you, Chris. I'm not picking on you.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the few people launching a unique new printer that has all the awesome features that most printers don't have for a price point. Never mind. I'm not going to go into the whole sales. I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah, and I'm just tired of it all. I'm building my own.
Yeah, but you can't build that printer for that price. I mean, if you price out the parts, you can't build it for that. I dare you to try.
That's why we had such a high goal, because we wanted to get we had to get, we tried to sell like at least 100 printers to get that kind of discount for the items. So, if we have to regroup, we'll try. But for now, anybody that believes in our project can donate whatever amount, and that will help out with the Kickstarter, at least the traffic and the recognition that people are backing it, even if it's for $1 or so. So anybody that looks at the project, we're trying to do a completely different method of using a printer for an average customer. With a full color touchscreen and up to 1,000 pre-sliced models, where we test the models in advance in a lab environment, and then send just the final G code that can be updated with the onboard database depending on what filament you load in. It recognizes what filament. It can recognize other environmental settings and change the G code on the fly. That's the kind of thing that we're working on with this.
Now, Keith, when you just made that statement that you were talking about Chris's printer, yes?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris's printer is composed of so many quality components that if you go and price those out, and I know this because I'm drooling over a lot of those parts.
Well,
I love parts.
I can 100% back that up, because I've been going through the same thing right now, sourcing parts for mine. So absolutely, the value behind Chris's printer is outstanding for what you get, quality wise.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the play. So there was a couple of ways that we could have done it. I could have done just pure consumer, where I ignore the community and do a closed source where you have to buy only a certain kind of filament, you have to do only this, and you can't do your own stuff. But that doesn't really help anybody, in my opinion. Having a printer that can be open source 100%. And also be able to do, if you keep it stock, to do a lot of the models that we'll be testing on an ongoing basis. And then if you wanted to do your own customization, just like any other printer out there, you can do that as well. And then one of the things that people have been talking about, how Kickstarters, they hate backing Kickstarters because of the failed projects and stuff like that. But in our opinion, other than the fact that we're using mostly off-the-shelf components and doing it in a new way, PrinterBot, everybody's favorite company that just closed down, started on Kickstarter. Forum Labs just got $1 billion valuation. They started on Kickstarter. So, it's not all failures. What's that?
Protopost is a Kickstarter. 5 years.
Yeah, Protopost is a Kickstarter. I didn't know that, but yeah. So, you always have to do your research. But my question is, if you're starting a new open source printer, how else do you get funding for a new company that isn't on crowdfunding these days? Because investors want closed source. They want patents. They want stuff like that. Now, my experience is that they want that more than anything that's open source. So I'm just mentioning that.
That makes a lot of sense, because if it's open source, you're going to give it away. They're not going to make tons and tons and tons of money. So it has to be crowdsourced.
Theoretically, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In their minds, that's what it means.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, there's just been so many that haven't come to light, and so many people that have taken the money and run.
Yeah. And a lot of that.
Sorry. The fact that you're starting, you physically have the printer, you have one, you have a proof of concept, which a lot of these companies start without. So you've already foot that bill. You've already done the legwork to make sure that that first one was going to work.
Right, and this is all open off the shelf parts. It's not anything unique. We're just doing it a different way with a different interface with the Duet Wi-Fi. With a lot of it's software, a lot of it's R coding and RG code. So if you want to consider it like a PC, we're doing the software end that hasn't really existed before. So that's the benefit to us, that down the line, we can have a marketplace that may have more like an app store type of setup, where you download a model for $1 or $2 or whatever the amount is, and then the creator gets an amount and we get a small part of that. So it's trying to build a much larger endeavor in the future.
I think everybody's falling asleep here.
I'm wide awake.
He's not serious.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want y'all to know, you stop talking, I'm going to start talking about the FK1.
Yeah.
I just want to see you. I just want to see that time where you have it fully assembled and you try to put it on your truck, even though you have a big truck. Getting it to the truck is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and like all my workspace is upstairs, which means it has to go down a flight of stairs as well. So
and the bed no longer moves, right?
What's that?
The bed no longer moves.
No, it's a stationary bed.
Okay.
But the shocking thing was when the box of extrusion came off the UPS truck, it's 44 pounds worth of extrusion. Now a little bit of that's going to get cut away, but maybe only 4 of that 44 pounds. And then the bed is 16 pounds, and then the stepper motors and so this thing is going to be chunky when I'm done with it. A couple people have recommended, Uncle Ron said it, and Grant, my coworker, said that to get a gurney, that like the ambulance gurney where the wheels break away, so I can just slide it into the back of the truck. That doesn't help.
You still got time, Glenn. Get Xander lifting weights now. He'll be fine.
Just strap it to his back and send him down the stairs.
Well,
so
Angus
I won't be
is in chat.
building one of these for my RV, is what you're saying?
Well, you can. You just have to get rid of some other stuff.
Well, Angus is in chat. I wanted to ask him quickly on his view regarding our Kickstarter. Since we are at 180,000 and you're talking about having smaller, what do you think? Like, if we can get, let's say we can get a little bit higher prices, but we ask for like 50,000, but we have to go higher priced. Angus, if you had an idea about doing that instead of having our current amount that we need.
Yeah, Angus was also saying the smaller Kickstarters have been doing better than the ones that have got like 1 million in funding. They will go bananas and go bust.
Oh yeah, yeah. We weren't.
In my opinion, 180,000 small compared to 1 million, but that's my opinion.
Right, and it was all a play because we're not just building printers; we're trying to build up a whole lab ecosystem as well. So that was where a lot of the time and the funding was going to go. If we just wanted to build a printer, we can go super cheap and just build a few printers. That's not a difficult thing. All right, he's saying my current goal is realistic. So I like the fact that it's realistic. We'll see if everybody else thinks that way.
Glenn, I had an idea for your FK1. You said you have cutoffs from the extrusions, right?
Yeah, like 100 millimeter.
You should make a baby. It doesn't have to be functional, but make a baby one, 3D print steppers and stuff to make it look like a mini FK1.
Yeah, but the extrusion would still be like big full size.
This is true.
So
yeah.
If this works, I am going to actually build like a normal size one, like a normal human size, maybe like a 400 by 400 bed.
Just build a scale model of it and 3D print a scale model of it. You could do that.
Did anybody else just think Did anybody else just think that Glenn should just order way more extrusions and create an entire rail system through his house to get it across or down hallways and stairs and everything? I mean,
get the hang printer, do it from the floor to the ceiling, and have the whole living room the print area.
Well, now keep in mind it's going to leave here and go to Orlando Maker Faire, and then it will possibly go to Gainesville Mini Maker Faire if they do it again this year. And then Murph and Earth, and that's probably the only times that it'll ever travel.
Okay, well, so we'll take
rail system. Rail system makes sense.
Yeah, we'll take Nick's idea and scale it down. Just buy a tractor and trailer and build it in the back of the trailer.
Well, funny enough, I'm actually looking at buying like a 4-foot by 8-foot, like one of them little cheap Harbor Freight trailers, and boxing it in with plywood so that it has its own trailer. And then, of course, I'll put Fun King stickers all over it.
That printer is going to squish a Harbor Freight trailer.
Well, probably not by itself, but with the plywood, it might.
Yeah, thank you, Angus, for joining the stream. It was good info that you gave us, and I really appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, him and Joel both.
Yeah,
thanks for coming, because you guys are obviously kind of the main focus of this topic.
Yeah, that was
dang it.
Well, it also gives us a little bit more clout because, you know,
Yeah.
Angus hung out in our chat. Good night, Angus.
So Glenn, I'm just reading in the chat, and we had a great idea. Well, it spawned a great idea. 3D Gusner said make spool holders of the cutouts, and it just got me thinking, what if you made a spool holder-esque trailer like Chuck does with his racer?
like tow it to Murph with spool wheels.
Nothing could possibly go wrong there, Glenn. Don't worry about
it. You just have to stop like every 3 feet and change them out. So I guess I'm gonna have to start taking spool donations.
Glenn, did you tell him the joke I told you the other day?
Top speed, 2 miles an hour.
Did you tell him the joke when I asked you what size nozzle you're going to use, and you said you're using the 0.2 or whatever?
Yeah, I like pain and agony, so I'm going to go with a 0.2 nozzle.
So I said, so it's going to be like, so how long is this going to take to print? 24 hours, days.
Yeah.
Did anybody? Did anybody hear Cole Hastings talking at IRF about the 4-foot by 4-foot by 4-foot printer he did with the kids at the college that he works at? They, I want to say they drilled out a nozzle, and I think it was like a 1.0 or something like that. And even to print on that entire platform, the entire thing of it, I think he said it would have taken something like 2 months to get an entire thing done. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, what size do they use on the CNC one?
4 millimeter. Are you talking about on the Part Daddy? Part
Daddy, yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 millimeter.
I can give you the extrusion width here in a second. Give me a second.
The extrusion width on the Part Daddy, they're using a 4 millimeter injection mold apparatus. So it's a 4 millimeter extrusion, but obviously they're not using any filament, so they're just using pellets, so they can get away with that.
It's interesting how fast that those pellets can be done for that size.
Well, they go through our
well, and the fact that they suck them in with a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. But if you look at the downfall of using a nozzle that big, I mean, obviously with the size, they have to go slow. Going slow, and with a width that large, and even with one of those little desktop fans as its cooling fan, there's no bridging. I mean, it's bloop bloop.
Hey, Joe, Mike, what I meant was, so they're using a 4 millimeter nozzle, but the actual extrusion width, once that lays down a layer, is 6.26 millimeters. Is how wide the extrusion. I just measured my base.
Well, in fairness, I'm sure that they didn't sit down and go, hey, this is a really practical build. I mean, that's not why they did it. So And you know, in fairness, I didn't really sit down and say that mine was going to be practical either. I had to make sure it was bigger than the G Create Big.
Yeah. Well, I think for after you do testing with the 0.4, I think a 0.8 would probably be good for regular. If you're going big, 0.8
yeah,
would
no.
probably be.
Like my thought is just to start with the 0.4 so that, you know, because my first print will probably be a benchy. You know, like just to see quality to make sure that it's actually legitimately.
When we watch questions of that full size benchy with your printer, man, we can do that in like 4 or 5 prints.
A full size benchy?
Yes,
like,
that's what I want to do.
We can actually like take out and motor around in.
Yes.
Wasn't it proved that the benchy sinks though?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can modify it.
Float.
I think we just need more weight in the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's too top heavy. It's not proportionately it's not right, but don't tell Daniel that.
We can do the bench Titanic.
If it needs weight in the bottom of it, just put the printer in the bottom of it. You'll be fine. Ballast everything out.
There are 3D printable attachments that you can put on the benchy to make it float.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You're like, I've done some of the benchy.
And there's a whole bunch of new designs out there of benchy-like boats that actually do float, including one that's about yay big.
The tugboat.
The tugboat looks
the tugboat. Yep.
I'm just thinking how long Glenn would have to wait if you printed a full-size benchy to actually use the FK1 for anything else.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a while. You know, well, like, and people have asked. Oh, real quick, 3D Gusner, it will actually have a swappable hot end or a extruder, so you'll be able to change it. But people have asked why. Well, of course they asked, why would you go so wide? And I said because I want to be able to print things like skateboard decks and street signs and European license plates. You know, so that was the whole point. And they said, so then why did you go so tall? And the at the point that you build a printer this big, I mean, you can build it pretty much any height you want for the same amount of money. Mm. So, you know, I wanted it to be able to do both. You know, I want to be able to print a vase on it if that's what I want, or to print the Titanic on it if that's what I want. So
you can print one vase or 5 is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but could you imagine? I figured out that I could do 144 of my maker coins on that bed at a time.
And it'll be the second one that fails and messes everything else up.
Well, exactly. So, but I wanted the option to be able to print wide if I wanted to print wide, or tall if I wanted to print tall. I want it to be a useful printer and not a one-use printer. Well, and the difference to make it, you know, 200 millimeters versus, I think it's right around 475. It might actually be a little bit more than that, but like it was so minimal in cost, it just didn't even matter.
Yeah, and you're printing tall. You got a static bed, so printing tall should be easier than most printers in that case.
Yeah, it should help. I mean, it should help tremendously. So I can do tall, thin things.
That's what she said?
Mike never let the machine.
I was waiting for it, Joe Mike. I was waiting for it.
I'm over here watching the kid. None of you chimed in, so I mean, shame on you.
Well, yesterday Joe Mike was like, I'm typing with one hand. I'm like, oh, you have the baby. Okay, just want to make sure of that.
Yeah, Mike said 144 coins could take 3 weeks though. And my maker coins are an hour a piece on average, so it'd be 144 hours to print them.
Glenn, you still haven't purchased Simplify 3D, have you?
I have not.
You, Carl has a good point. 144 coins or anything, like if you're printing multiple parts, you may at that point want to consider Simplify, because you can use the Octoprint cancel object plugin. So when one fails, you can cancel it and keep going with the other 143.
I've seen that plugin, but why do you have to have the S3D for that?
It's because of the way S3D actually details the G code rather than just spits the raw G code into a file. They document everything. So it's looking for Simplify 3D. If you look at the G code, it'll say layer, whatever, 40, or process. I'm sorry, process number 2. and cancel object goes in and takes out skips over. If you tell it to cancel process 2, it cancels every part of the G code that's documented as process 2. So it'll go from process 1 to process 3.
But isn't there a plugin that allows you to actually do it via coordinates, like the area, like you coordinate
like an area. That's what I thought too.
That one is extremely buggy from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, okay. That was called cancel region, I think.
Yeah.
Cancel region, yeah.
Isn't that
really
didn't
buggy.
Cura just come out with something like that too, or am I mistaken?
No, they did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, NAC 3D Design said I was told it will work with Cura too.
Or Cura has their own or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, my big pet peeve with Cura, now that we're on to slicers, my big pet peeve with Cura is that, Cura, however you say it, is that, like with Slicer, or Slick 3R, or Slicker, or whatever you want to call it, you know, in the Prusa edition of Slicer, you save, like, it saves your filament settings and everything right to the same profile.
Yep.
But in Cura, it's like you have a profile, but you also have a filament profile. So it's like the two don't tie together, and maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know.
But that's what is beautiful about Simplify 3D is because it's a mix of both. So you have filament profiles, but you have printer profiles, and Simplify 3D lets you have specific filament profiles per printer profile.
Right.
So yeah, we can't use Simplify 3D because their G code is copyrighted or whatever.
How?
Oh, it's in the user agreement that they own the G code when you put it out.
Yeah.
It belongs to them.
Really?
Yeah, Tom had a post about it on Twitter.
The point of it is so that you don't become a slicing service using their slicer.
Okay, well that's fine and dandy and all, but I mean, intellectual property kind of is a big deal to me.
They had foreshadowing to our company. That's what it was.
So why can't you use it?
all your G code belongs to us.
Yeah.
So why can't you use it?
Because if you're doing a slicing, because they're charging $150 for their product. So if everybody just starts using the same slicer G code for whatever reason, and in that situation, then nobody's going to buy the software. I guess is their mentality on that.
Oh, so you're saying for your models,
right? The G code itself.
Yeah, so you can't slice like the pre-configured models using Slicer that comes with your Venturi.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is, if we used Simplify 3D, we're sending G code. The printer's going to be loaded with over 1,000 models of G code.
You cannot distribute the G code that's been produced out of Simplify 3D. You cannot distribute
That makes sense. But if I had your printer and I wanted to use Simplify 3D to slice my own, I could still send that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're just talking about your pre-bundled stuff.
Distribution, right?
Okay.
Maybe this is the overseas disconnect, but doesn't the G code that comes on the CR10 isn't that sliced with Simplify 3D?
It is.
It probably is.
It is.
Yeah, but when have they ever abided by?
Exactly. That's why I'm laughing.
Well, that's the thing, One thing is to do it.
Isn't Marlin open source?
Copyright isn't applicable over there.
See, I can understand to an extent that part because they're formulating the G code, but at the same time, too, my G code is different than Joe Mike's G code.
Right.
My G code brings all the boys to the yard.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's almost like foreshadowing for a system like ours, where if you leave it stock, all the printers should be the same. So your G code theoretically, and that's what we're working towards, will be able to be printed on any of our printers as long as you leave it stock. So
I'm not saying anymore because Simplify 3D might yank my license from me. Not that I've sold anything, but
well, maybe I'll just keep talking about them until they give me one. No, they don't ever give out licenses ever.
They'll give you 2 weeks and then you're made.
I know a few printers
I was
get
going to
sold
say they'll
with
give you
it.
2 weeks if you give them the money first.
Yeah.
They'll give you one to give away.
What's that?
They'll give you one to give away.
Hey,
So
Sam,
call them up and tell them you want to give one away, and then give it away to me.
Wow, way to game the system, Glenn. And here we are talking about trust in YouTube and all that jazz.
I will trust you to give it to me.
I was gonna say I'm gonna pull us back to the integrity conversation we had a little bit earlier.
Speaking of integrity, I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't just remove the code from their copyright code from the G code, but that.
well, I guess
I'm not going there.
I didn't see no copyright.
No, it's purely because you pay for the software, and so if you buy that software and then you're just farming out everybody's stuff, or you're charging them, I'll slice that model for you for $1. I mean, you can make a killing on that.
But still, I paid for the flipping software. It should belong to me.
that's like the whole John Deere firmware thing on their tractors. That would be like them saying you can't modify our tractor, but you also can't mow your neighbor's yard because they didn't buy a John Deere.
Well, what if my neighbor went in halfsies with me on this John Deere?
Take your Simplify 3D G code and strip the comments, and you're not going to know it's Simplify 3D. So all you got to do is strip the comments, and then
the other thing is how are they ever going to find out? Either way, but for the record, we are not using it. So.
For the record, we're not using it.
We're not getting.
I haven't even tried it, honestly. So.
Okay, so I don't fully buy that they can do that because the G code doesn't anywhere in it say it's copyrighted.
It does someplace.
No, it doesn't.
Probably in the terms when you first.
Well, it's probably in the terms, but you'd think they would put a comment in.
No, I've seen it in the comments of the G code before. I have to go.
Yeah, where'd you get your version from, Matt?
And we had this discussion on Twitter last week. Somebody else confirmed it too.
I'm looking at one right now. Now, this was created with 4.0.1, which I think is the latest.
Maybe it's at the very end?
No. I just searched the entire document for the word copyright. Or copyright.
Well, it may not say copyright specifically, but I think there's some kind of terms in there.
Intellectual property, maybe? All G code is the intellectual property of...
Trademark, intellectual property, cannot distribute,
right.
I don't know, something like that.
Something about cutting your fingers off if you distribute it.
Something about firstborn child.
This file will self-destruct in 5 seconds if it's used on a different printer. Yeah.
So what happens if I show my screen while I'm scrolling down through G code?
Oh, you're in copyright violation.
Your license will get revoked.
Well, it's all right. It's just Martein's channel, right?
You haven't technically distributed it.
Huh. I never knew that.
Find it?
I don't see it in mine.
I don't see it in mine anywhere. I'm going, unless they got it somewhere hidden in the middle.
Well, I've got Simplify open here. Let me see if there's
I found out about a year ago. I don't remember where I found it, but somebody mentioned it, and then they had a snippet of the code, and then somebody last week when Tom Sandlander was discussing it, somebody had also confirmed that they saw it in their code that it was.
Yeah, there was a good discussion about it on the Twitters.
I'm reading the fine print here.
Is that why you're leaning way in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could also be in the agreement that when you install the product.
That's what I'm looking at right now. The EUL, the EULA.
Yeah,
it is in there. It is in there. I am not finding anything generated.
Yeah, there's nothing in the G code itself other than it says at the very top, generated with Simplify 3D version whatever on whatever date.
No weird code that could tie it back to a license number or anything. Why don't you email me your G code so I can look at it? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll email it to you. I don't give a shit.
No, I was only kidding. I was making a joke, Matt.
When I had my Duplicator i3 V2, my brother has one too, and he was having issues with a certain model. And I sliced it and sent it to him, and he printed it fine. So, that's why I'm I haven't actually made money from it, but I have exchanged G code with my brother.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see it in the EULA.
I didn't either. I'm still scrolling through, but
it's purely supposedly it's purely just to stop you from being a slicing service with their.
I get that, but at the same time, like, you know, Philip. Well, that's interesting. I wonder about factory files. Because Filament Frenzy shared his factory file.
That's a good question. Very good question.
Actually, factory files are shared everywhere.
Well, that's fine because you still have to have a version. You still have to have a Simplify 3D license to use a factory file. So that's software to software. So if I have a factory file and I want to share it with someone else, they have to have Simplify 3D in order to use it.
Well, here you go. I got it. Except I don't think it applies to. Okay, so let me just read this word for word. Except for the use expressly authorized, you agree not to sell, transfer, license, modify, copy, reproduce, distribute. I can't read this as fast as most legalese is read. Transmit, perform, publish, or create derivative works from such materials. You agree not to systematically retrieve data or other content from this software for any purpose, including but not limited to creating a collection, which would be what Chris is trying to do, compilation, database, or directory without Simplify 3D's written permission, downloading of any information, content, or images from this software other than the end products. The G code would be the end product.
Well,
no, the print would be.
I don't know about that. I would consider the G code the end product from Simplify. Once I'm done with with Simplify, the end product is G code. That then I take to the printer.
Well, that's why
then we get into the whole discussion about reselling parts on eBay that you printed out.
Yeah, but there again, that would be after the. To me, that would be the print is the end product after the end product of Simplify 3D. The printer makes the print. Simplify 3D just makes the code, which would be
that makes sense because Simplify 3D does not produce the print.
Right.
But it produces the code for the print.
So what if this was like an Apple iTunes situation? Like you have like the whatever the file M4C or whatever, you play that, but the file is protected by Apple, but you're playing it on a different device, for example.
I don't know.
Just a thought as something similar.
Yeah, you bring Apple into it, and then things get weird.
Yeah, no.
I was saying this is getting heavy.
I truly
waded
believe
into some weird waters.
Yeah, I truly believe with Apple, if you're playing music out loud from your iPod and somebody else hears it, you're in violation.
Well, yeah, it's just discussing digital to physical, because that's the kind of the new world we're in when you're discussing copyright and stuff like that. It's like what's digital, what's physical, and where does the line get drawn? That's where Luby had a problem with that eBay scammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3D Customer made a point. He will start a G-code magazine. So you'll buy a magazine full of G-code. Then you just type it in.
Yeah, but you can't.
No.
Type it in.
Not doing that. This isn't like. No. This isn't like Hello World. It's like.
Yeah, but then Joe Mike, you could save it on your 5 1/4 floppy. You'd be good to go.
Are you kidding me?
Floppy. Tape drive.
A 5 1/4
like
floppy will not hold a G-code file.
It'll hold a G-code file, just a really tiny one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, a tiny one. Yeah, but not one worth the darn. I mean, even a 3 1/2 won't hold most.
It'll hold
G-code
the
file.
purge code.
Well, yay. My
But
favorite.
yeah, so kind of going back to this though. So if the G-code file is considered the end product, or isn't considered the end product, then the G-code file, the factory files,
But now the factory files, are those generated by Simplify?
They're generated by Simplify, but they can only be used by Simplify 3D.
But they're not.
I got it.
I guess the question, they're not automatically generated, right? You have to go and put input and stuff in there to create that.
Correct. You build the file.
I got it. The G-code is the end file. Here's why. It's not the print, because if you print something with Simplify 3D and you print something with Cura and Slicer, and you compare those, how are you going to determine that it was printed by Simplify 3D in most cases? Unless there's some kind of what do they call it, trademark or something like that that gets printed in the print somehow.
Watermark. There is
watermark. You're never going to see.
Yeah, if you hold it up to an ultraviolet light.
Well, Angus had something about that where he was doing that with certain prints, where you can make a certain mark.
That was
you can velocity
that was in the
print
STL file.
Yeah,
but like, let's say that is an interesting thing to maybe like in a certain like itty bitty spot. You use acceleration settings to do a velocity watermark, and it's nothing that like is distinctive, but if you held it and you knew what you were looking for, you could go, okay, so you see these 4 bumps right here. I'm going to replicate this 5 times over here because that's our velocity watermark, or these 5 tiny little wisps of.
Yeah, I could definitely see Simplify 3D having like a team of T-code cops out running around looking for 3 little wisps.
Hey, you asked.
But and then, heaven forbid if you sand that model and paint it or hit it with a heat gun.
Yeah, but getting back to my point, I think that's why the G-code in that case would be the end product, because once you have it printed,
the end product the copyright doesn't apply to the end product according to the license. So the G-code's the end product, and you can do what you want with the end product. You just can't
do what I want.
Duplicate anything else.
But it said in there that you could not create a collection.
Yeah, so you can't do a database of files created with Simplify 3D, but it's free for me to share, or in this case, really technically sell my G-code file that I sliced with Simplify 3D. Because
we're still not getting into it. I want to avoid any kind of legal troubles at front.
It does say that the software can't be used to create a database, which is what you would be doing.
Right.
Your Mike Taranella YouTube channel does not condone the actions referenced in this video, nor
Martin's channel.
Yeah, I'm just making it very plain. All the opinions expressed here are of their respective owners.
I have no opinion.
We need one of these fast-talking legal people to say all the disclaimers.
All that stuff is said at normal speed, then they speed it up and adjust the pitch. That's why it's fast talking. Oh man, I missed the Micro Machine guy.
The Micro Machine commercials years ago.
That's what I just said. I said I missed the Micro Machine guy.
Showing our age again. I'll be 40 in 1 month. If anybody wants to send me anything, just saying.
I'll send you an invite to Orlando Maker Fair. How's that?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to be there.
I'll probably be there. What is it again?
When?
Yeah.
November 11th, 10th and 11th.
Okay.
But the call to makers is open now, so
yeah, I know.
Get on board.
Kind of busy.
Ride the train. Woo woo.
All right, guys, it's getting close to the 3-hour mark. I'm gonna pop off.
All right, next.
Ooh, dude, TMI.
Yeah, thanks for joining in.
Man, I'm glad my kid is in bed.
I don't know if that's sleep deprivation, Joe Mike, or you just thought it was funny.
No, it's just Joe Mike.
That's really no different than normal. I'm actually rather awake at the moment because I'm hitting the noon o'clock, which is my shift. Or I'm sorry, the midnight o'clock, which is my shift.
Yeah.
Midnight.
Where's the bathtub?
The bathtub?
Wait. It's upstairs where my wife is sleeping, Keith.
We only have one bathtub?
No, but the good one is up where my wife is. What, you want me to sit in a regular bathtub like some heathen?
Hey, while I got a meeting of the minds, for those of you who have used Simplify 3D, what the hell causes it to crash on only certain printer profiles when you go to slice the G-code?
Corrupted profile.
Yeah.
How do you fix it? I can copy
profile.
Here's the dumb thing. I can copy that profile and reopen it, and it's perfectly fine. So I don't buy that it's corrupted.
Is that the situation that Jetman was talking about where it changes the code every time we slice it?
No, not the G code. So I have profiles. I have multiple profiles for my CR10, depending on what nozzle size I'm running. And my 0.4 profile, doesn't matter what I slice with the original profile that I set up, it will crash. Simplify 3D will just close. No faults, no nothing. The whole thing will just shut down. But if I take and copy that factory file or the profile and rename it, it works.
Well, check the error logging. I mean, there's got to be some form of error logging.
Have error logging? I didn't know it did. I haven't looked at it. I just
this is really making me want to plunk down $150 to buy this.
I don't think it has native error logging, but it might throw up something in the Windows event viewer.
Yeah, and I think it still does the random G code that Jetman was talking about a year ago. I think it still does that, even the newer versions.
Yeah, every time you slice, it's a different.
Which is odd.
I've actually
it does do a dump file every time it crashes. They are in app data local crash dumps.
That was one time in the stream, so I can go back and get that.
Since we're talking about dump files,
no, not that kind of dump.
No, this is just a thought that I've always had is, wouldn't it just be great if a coder out there actually like created a folder called toilet inside of the local directory, and that's where the dump files went?
That's what I used to rename my recycling bin to.
What about Typer?
I think when your computer BSODs, if you've got a Windows machine, it should put the dump file in the toilet. And then got to go check the toilet to see why your computer crashed.
Gotta go find that dump in the toilet.
Find the dump before it flushes.
And then you have to get Mario out there to help you with the plumbing.
And if we're gonna go as far as somebody creating a folder called toilet to put the dump files in, maybe that same programmer could, I don't know, write dump files that actually make sense when you look at them.
Or they maybe could, put out Windows updates that don't crash vital services like Exchange.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be a beta tester.
I don't want to be a beta tester.
Going back to the main topic.
I didn't sign up for Microsoft's beta testing program.
Oh, I'm sure you did. As soon as you installed the
reality reviewers.
Okay, so I'm a system admin, so I didn't sign up for any of it. All the clients I service, there's 30 of them that still use Exchange 2010, and on premises, there was an update that rolled through in July that broke the transport of Exchange. So when we pushed out all the updates the other night, and all of a sudden 30 clients had no email flowing, and it was like, what the crap just happened?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe Mike, but you just went from talking about taking a dump to pushing, so
sorry, I left my butt.
Where'd you say that was?
I put it in chat.
Oh.
So
right now we have a lovely
app data local crash dumps.
Right. So that's under your profile. So it's within users, your username.
Just do percent app data percent.
Yes, that'll work too.
And then go into local.
I'm glad they planned ahead of time to have that folder available.
I have save state and temp, no error files or anything. Which those are Simplify 3D model files.
Right.
So where'd you get your Simplify 3D again?
Mine is actually licensed.
The other thing is that I'm checking on how to reset all the profiles, because there are 2 files, and the 2 you mentioned, I believe, are the ones that you delete to recreate all your profiles.
The speaking of dumps and all that stuff, the boss is about to need a diaper change, so I'm gonna hop off and say goodnight, everybody.
Night, Joe Mike.
Night, Joe Mike.
Good night, Joe Mike.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, awesome. It was awesome. It was fun.
So speaking of profiles, we are going to have profiles for our printer for the different slicing programs that will be available as well. So get those get those donations in.
So what are you using as a slicer, Chris?
Well, we're using Kira, Slick3R, and Idea Maker. Those are the three that we're going to start with. And actually, I posted one video on our Venturi 3D YouTube channel and also posted to the Kickstarter about some of the process that we're going to be using for the lab environment, starting out with supports. So in that video, we're showing out how supports can be done if you do, like if you were to use your own slicer and use Kira in this example, and you just put supports in the stock format, it puts a lot of support structures that you have to remove manually. So in the video, we're just showing how if you go to Mesh Mixer manually, you can put supports manually, and then you can make a lot less of them in certain situations. We are going to print those and test that and see what supports can be put in a model. So it's a lot less than what your typical slicer would do.
Are you going to have print times, estimated print time?
Yes. And they'll be pretty accurate, too, since we're going to have the G-code. So
I'm looking at this print I got going on the CR10. It was supposed to be 2 hours. I'm into 4 hours at this point.
Yeah, print times can... What slicer did you use?
Simplify. Okay.
I don't know how theirs is, but I know Kira is usually underrated a bit, depending on what printer we use.
Not to sidetrack it, but slicers need to have a place for you to put your acceleration settings and all that stuff in it. If they would allow that, then you'd be able to get way more accurate print times.
Yeah, Slicer Prusa Edition has the acceleration info for the MK2 and MK3. So
can you customize it?
Yeah, and they have very accurate estimation on print time because they already know the firmware settings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We are using the Prusa Edition for the multi-material just because that's really the program to use a multi-material for more than 2. I think Kira does have an option for 2, but not 4. So we are going to be using Prusa Edition for those models.
Hey, Chris, the Lightspeed in chat asked what's special about the Venturi. This is a good opportunity for you just to...
What isn't special about it? That's what you really need to ask. Sorry. So it's pretty simple. So we're designing it like a PC builder would, where we're putting a good frame together, putting in the best quality parts, and then we're putting in with the Duet Wi-Fi and DueX2 for the 4-color, the 4-color multi-material setup, and where we're going to be pre-slicing a lot of the models ahead of time and testing that on our printers to make sure that they print correctly in many different environments. And then you'll have, if you purchase the 4-color printer, you'll have over 1,000 models pre-installed in 10 different categories. It's all on an Android 7-inch touchscreen. You can select a model, you can preview it, you can choose which filament for which section, and then press print. It's on our Kickstarter page, which somebody can link to in the chat, Glenn. And yeah. And we are $749 for the 1-color, $849 for the 2-color, and $999 for the 4-color. So these are very good prices.
That's the Kickstarter price, right?
Correct. Yeah, they're not going to be the retail, but that's Kickstarter early.
They'll be half that afterwards. No, it's a reverse Kickstarter.
Yeah, we're trying to make them low cost, but still keep the lights on. And I know some people have questions. We're still making a good amount of profit because of the fact that we have to sell a certain amount to get those prices. So that was the goal. That's why we have the goal set up 180,000. So one way or another, we should get there, hopefully.
Are you going to have a curation process to add to your database, or is it just going to be the 1,000?
No, it's on a monthly basis. We're going to have on our website, we're going to have an ongoing, a couple hundred miles a month, hopefully, that we're going to be curating. So it's going to be our own models we have from partners to do 3D models on different websites using Creative Commons licenses, the proper ones. We also are not going to, we're going to contact every creator ahead of time and let them know, hey, here's what we're doing. If you have any other things you want to add to the information, because it's all going to be attributed and everything.
Well, Xander would like you to definitely add his rocket to your collection.
Will do.
Because he's all about that rocket.
Xander, rocket the fly. Bought a case of 24 rocket engines.
Well, Neary's, I don't know how far he's ever gotten with it, but Neary's was actually reworking Xander's rocket to be flyable. But I don't know where he ever got with it. So
I was just going to take it and put a hole in the bottom and put the rocket engine in and see what happens.
See what happens.
The Lightspeed, go on the Kickstarter page. You'll get all the details. We have one working prototype right now. So, but yeah, it's a Core XY. It's not based on the Hypercube Evo. Officially, not based on the Hypercube Evo. Wink, wink. 220 by 220 by 220. Retail price would be probably about $1,200 or $1,300 for the 4-color, and then the lower ones would probably be $100 or something, $100 or $200 higher than it is for the Kickstarter.
Martin, are you falling asleep on us? You're awful quiet.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired, but it's okay.
What time is it there, Martin?
10 minutes over 5 a.m.
Holy cow.
What's the future like?
Yeah, it's almost bright outside, so future is bright.
At least we all know the sun's coming up. You know, we're gonna live to see another day.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this hot sun. That thing can just go away.
This summer has been one of the hottest summers in a while. Just consistently hot.
I don't know.
Here in Florida, it's been the same as every year, pretty much. We haven't had anything different.
Yeah, it's been really cold here in Iceland this summer. So Europe and the States have heat and we have cold, so we skipped the global warming day.
Yeah, we typically have like 1 week where it's consistently 90, and I'll tell you what, it's been freaking 90 since June.
That's pretty much every day here for us.
Yeah. 137% humidity every day. Rains every day.
Yeah, I don't even
at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't even go out and work in the garage during the summertime because like you just walk into that building and it's stifling hot.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Virginia, it's rained twice, once for 45 days and once for 35 days.
That's good.
No, we had early rain today. It rained at like, well, it was before I go to lunch at 11 a.m. So it was probably 10. Started raining.
Yeah, Central Florida also has more lightning than anywhere in the country, maybe in the world. The Orlando, Tampa area.
Yeah, it's the lightning capital of something. I don't know if it's the whole world, but
probably those for the populated. I'm sure there's probably like a desert somewhere that gets a lot of lightning, but for populated areas, we're probably number one.
Now I get to watch Matt work.
Yeah.
It might end in blood.
Yeah.
I got 9-1 dialed. Wait, where do you live again?
Yeah.
That was Nilla. We'd always do that with Nillabean because every one of Nillabean's live streams, he'd always hurt himself. So at the point that he'd say like, "Oh, I got to get the Dremel out," everybody's like, "What's your E911 address?"
Where is Nilla and how is he doing?
He left me a comment on my FK1 video, which like it blew me away that he actually was still around. But the store's doing well. He opened up a local gaming store, but it's sucking all of his time. So
yeah, I've been in his store to visit him a couple of times when I'm working down in that area. I stop in. He's still around. He still follows everybody and stuff. He's just like Glenn said, his business is just sucking up his time.
Yeah,
Well, he had some great, role playing content that he was producing, and so that's why I asked.
Well, he's the reason I'm here. I mean, like, he's the reason that I started a YouTube channel. Like, he's not necessarily the reason I got into 3D printing. I started, like, following him when I got interested in buying one again. But I just liked his format. And so I pretty much copied everything. Like, I wrote to him and found out what equipment he used. And, so I and it's almost like I stole YouTube from him, because at the point I came on the scene, he was gone. And it was like, I never got to do a face-to-face chat. It's my fault, yeah. Even stole his hairstyle, according to Adam. Yeah, no, I miss Nilla.
Yeah.
And then there was this one live stream where this guy Matt showed up at his house, but for some reason they couldn't get Matt's mic to work, so it was really just kind of a half a conversation.
Yeah, but he drilled a hole in the table to mount it. So.
He's like, well, we'll just mount the mic right here.
He grabs the drill and drill a hole in his table. I still don't think to this day his wife was happy about that. This random guy from YouTube showed up at their house.
Showed up at the house, yeah. So, well, I mean, I hope his store does well, and I hope that it's what he needs in life. But the selfish side of me wants him back.
Yeah, I keep telling him that every time I go in. Like, just come on the stream again. He has his Prusa front and center in the display window of a shop and runs prints on it. He prints a lot.
Really?
Of stuff. Yeah, he's printing a lot of stuff for the game store and for the different. I'm not a board game-ish person, but like prints a lot of stuff for the displays and stuff in the store and game nights and stuff that they have.
Yeah, we gotta convince him to come on one of these one night. I've never had the opportunity to do a face-to-face with him, because it was literally at the point that I came in, he was gone.
I was trying to get him to come up to New York Maker Fair to the Matter Hackers meetup last year on the Thursday night one that I drove up home. I tried to get him to come, but that was right about the time he was opening up his store. So that was all started to come to reality for him. Good God.
What'd you do to Xander, Glenn?
Oh, he crapped out right at midnight. As soon as the outros happened, he's like, I'm going to bed.
He's laying on the floor at the base of the chair.
Yeah, no, he changed out of his Fun King shirt and walked by and waved, and he said he'd probably be
Fun King shirt for prop. You guys just put it on for the video.
Well, I have like a whole.
Let me go get my shirt.
I have like a whole week's worth, but
I think he owes me one, by the way.
What's that?
I think you owe me one.
I do owe you one. I now have the ability to fulfill that, but no, we each have one. Xander and Zach and I each have one that hangs over here on a hook. That's considered our production shirt that we don't eat in, or like they're pristine. So anytime that we're on camera, it's almost always like this one's one of my regular dailies, but it's almost always the production shirt. So.
Which, oh, by the way, we do have shirts available on our Kickstarter as well. So if you want to get a shirt, it's a $40 donation, just because the shirts are not cheap. But yeah, they look really cool, and I should have one myself. A friend of mine has one. I need to buy my own.
Yeah, it kills me. It kills me what it costs to have a shirt made. I mean, because that's what I used to do, and I quit doing it because it was getting so expensive. But it just kills me what it costs.
It's like, so you buy a box of blank shirts, they're not cheap to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, you buy enough of them, they're not too bad. But
yeah.
3D Gusner wants to know if Xander sleeps in this Prusa shirt. Let me tell you, when we got back from Earth, we literally had to pry it off of his body, and it kind of made this like crunching noise as it came off of him. but they're European sizes. So I had gotten a large. I wear an extra large, but I'd gotten a large European, which is a medium in the U.S. And fat guy in a little shirt, let me tell you. So Xander ended up with 2 shirts.
Oh man, I need to tune that profile. I put a 0.8 on the CR10 and just changed it to a 0.8, and that was it. Supports are a little too close.
A little too much.
We can hear.
What's that?
We can hear.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, I see you got Duet 3D as a sponsor. What have you put the Duet board in?
What am I putting it in?
Yeah.
It's going in the FK1.
As it should be.
That's
Yeah. So
that makes sense, doesn't
it? Does to me.
All the logos are the sponsor for the FK ones. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we have I see 3D obviously because they were awesome enough to make. Oh, I took it off of there. My Fun King 3D yellow PETG, which has so far produced.
Nice.
That's almost all the parts. I have just the extruder assembly to go, and then everything will be printed. We have Duet. Duet got on board. They donated a Duet Ethernet because that's what I requested, and a 5-inch panel due, which would be really cute to have a 5-inch panel on that big printer. But I didn't want anything that I had to figure out where to put it. So Bondtech actually turned me down when I first asked. They said that they were having a hard enough time keeping up with production levels and whatever. And I wrote them back and I said, I understand, that's fine. And then just on a whim, I reached out to them again because in the beginning, I didn't have anything to show. I was still in the design phase. I didn't want the world to know about it yet. So when I wrote back to them the second time, I sent them a link to the video and I told them who else was on board, and they were like, "Yes, we want in on that." So they donated a extruder for me. I reached out to Ant Collabs and asked if they would be willing to donate a BL Touch, and they got on board. E3D was my first sponsor with the hot end. They had no problem. They were just like, take a bag of candy. Is that everybody?
Those are all very good components, I have to say.
Well, I was going to start from the top. I wasn't going to be like writing to ANET going, "Hey, can I have a controller board?"
Exactly.
So, but no, it's
oh, we need Capricorn tubing next. That's what you need next.
It's a direct drive. I mean, I will end up running some Bowden tube up just for filament management. But
that's right. You're obsessed with direct drive. I forgot.
Yes, I love direct drive. I can't stand Bowden but should put it in the E12. No, I'm not putting money into that E12. Lightspeed, no, I'm not building it to sell. My intentions are to build it, make it work, and release it to the public. Unless somebody comes in between and offers me an insane amount of money, which at this point could be $100. No, I'm just kidding.
Weren't we bidding at one point? Wasn't the bid like at $12, something silly like that?
It was. Mine was $537 and jar pickles. That's why I said that.
No, I want to release it open source because I want to see it out there. I want to see other people build it. So I mean how much better of a compliment can that be? Unless it sucks. If it sucks, then I don't want anybody building it. So
Glenn, your biggest expense is the extrusions at that point, because you said it was like $1,200 something.
The extrusion was $330 for all of the extrusion.
Yeah.
The bed is $160 for the aluminum, and then $100 for the heater to go on it. And then, those are my two biggest expenses, being that everything else was donated.
Right?
So,
but if you were to spec it out as a normal person,
which I will definitely have that bottom line number in the end, but I'm thinking probably $1,500-$1,600 if you are very careful and just, like don't be stupid, and that I'm not saying like, buy the Chinese knockoff hot end, but
Right.
don't go to Amazon and buy the bag of 100 screws that you need 10 of when you can go to Bellmetric and order 10, and I'm gonna have a full bill of materials so that you'll know exactly what to order, and then not necessarily where to order it. That's up to you, but I'll tell you where I ordered stuff from. So
yeah, I've got a bill of materials going on for Upper right now too. I've got one person who wants to just build one of their own to help test it. So he said he wanted to build it. So I got him most of the bill of materials so he can do it if he wants.
Yeah, it's a big process. Are you ordering all the extrusion for yours already pre-cut to size?
Probably. Yeah, we're going with Masumi because it doesn't really change a whole lot. So unless there's a difficulty getting it shipped properly or something like that, we probably will.
Well, I mean, with Misumi, it's a good option. That's how I got the aluminum for the AM8. But for the V slot, the one company that I could find that would cut it, they wanted like $3.25 a cut, and then it only came in the silver aluminum, and I ordered it all black, of course, because it has to be black and yellow.
Yeah. I don't think Masumi has V slot.
No, they don't. I checked. But no, I'm excited to finally put it. I haven't even unboxed the aluminum yet. That'll probably be tomorrow.
Or you could do like some of those Chinese companies that have the T slots, but they still use the V rollers. That's my favorite. Right.
Or the janky V slot where it's just got the step.
Yeah, but if it's I forget, I think it was Angus maybe who had one of those, and it was like they had the regular rollers, but it was a T slot extrusion. Like, how do you mess that up?
Yeah, I can't tell. No, this one's legitimate V slot, but
yeah.
But Ian, you can order the V slot like through AliExpress, and it's cheaper, but the shipping will kill you. So then it's not worth it. Plus, what kind of shape is it going to be in when it gets here?
Right. It's going to take 6 months to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be C-shaped. So as soon as I started, I did all of my stuff. Oh, Open Builds. That's the other sponsor that I left out. They have a sponsorship program, but they only have certain amounts of slots open for it, and there's a waiting list to get in. And so they told me that they didn't have a slot open, but they would put me in, and I thanked them and told them not to fill up a slot with me because I had to get going on this. But I had asked them for inside scoop information on when the next free shipping sale was, because it was $70 for the shipping, and they were kind enough to give me a code. There was a free shipping coming up just last weekend, but they gave me my own code so I could order it right then. So,
nice.
So I thought that was kind enough to be considered as a sponsor because they saved me $70.
Yeah, that's fine.
But no, I bought the blade to cut the aluminum. Now I'm going to make some jigs and cut it all on my chop saw. I'd like to be fancy and use like a end mill and stuff on it, but I don't have all that. So you can get T-slot rollers. They're just $60 each. Yeah. As soon as I started the design phase, there was things I knew I was going to need. And so like I would work on the design, and then at night laying in bed watching TV, I'd be on the internet sourcing parts. So I started way early ordering stuff from AliExpress. I got, instead of paying $5 a wheel, and again, nothing against Open Builds, but $5 a wheel, I bought the exact same wheel for like $1 a piece, which I have 30 wheels, 28 wheels on this thing. So yeah, that was enough savings for me to wait for them to come out of China. So screws, most of the hardware came from bellmetric.com, which it's fairly cheap. But just like a lot of the trinkety stuff I ordered, odd size screws that I couldn't get from Bellmetric came from AliExpress.
Mm-hmm.
So just, metric hardware is not readily available here.
Yeah, it's tough. I got some from some kind of model airplane company, supply company. I got, well, not locally, but it was quick shipping for some of the screws I needed. But yeah, I think you'll find a lot of stuff that you didn't figure out until you start building it, and you're like, oh yeah, we need to get this figured out. So you can do all the planning ahead of time, but once you start building it, you're like, oh yeah.
Well, and I designed the extruder assembly to use the inductive probe, and then doing some research and seeing what everybody else was using, and then I asked on Twitter, and everybody's like, BL Touch.
Yeah.
So that's when I reached out to Ant Clabs, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but and so now I'm having to redesign the extruder assembly, which it's probably the toughest piece, trying to get everything into the smallest package. But the diagrams show to keep that BL Touch at least 15 millimeters away from the hot parts, and that's a lot tougher than, 15 millimeters is only this much, but it's a long way when you're dealing with stuff that is that small.
The BL Touch, you have it already in?
No, it's coming Tuesday.
Okay, because it looks like they switched from a metal piece at the end to a plastic one, which I thought was weird.
Engineering plastic, according to the website.
Yeah, I'm still iffy about that.
Has been much more accurate based on my experience so far.
The plastic one has?
But is it easier to break? That's my question.
Actually, the metal one was the reason I wanted a new one. Was the metal one bends so easily? You snag a print with that metal tip, and it just bends right at that.
And that's funny. That's actually the reason that I was shying away from BL Touch to begin with. Was I'd seen reports of the tip bending, and I thought, well, that's not good.
People had some knockoff ones too that they were getting that were, I think they were called BL Touch, but they were not, and they were much cheaper.
Those quality. Are the BL Touches.
Yeah. So that was another thing.
Touche would be more expensive.
Put it this way: if it's easy to break and Keith has it, he'll.
3D Gusner says it's because of the magnetic beds, which that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, it does.
That would affect the pin pulling up. So, but yeah, at $44 each, or right around $40 a piece for those, I would be angry if I was bending the pin all the time. Yeah. But also, if you run that pin into the bed accidentally or whatever, I would rather it be plastic. I'd hate to eat a PEI sheet or whatever. Mainly when it's this big.
Right.
Which that's a source that I have to work on too. I want a PEI sheet that fits that bed, and I don't want 3 of them. I want one sheet with no seams. So I think, and I haven't checked with them, but I think Printed Solid can do it.
They should, because they cut all their own in-house.
Yeah, I think that width-wise I make it because it's 400 millimeter. So I think I cover their width, and then I can just have it whatever length I want.
Talk to Dave, because he's always looking for any excuse to play with the lasers. When I bought my CR10, had I not had to buy it in a pinch, he was going to laser engrave my YouTube logo on the aluminum bed.
Wow. Maybe I have to ship him my bed then and have that done to it. The big FK1 right across the bed.
I got to get it down to him at some point, but he's also going to laser cut an acrylic backer for the Friday night community build logo.
Cool.
So that we can still see everybody's names and everything on it.
Uncle Ron said you stole my haircut, Matt.
I had it first.
Oh, I don't know about that, brother. I've been wearing this hairstyle since my 20s. 3D Gusner said to use a spring steel sheet, but I'm not sure how I would go about obtaining a flat enough piece. I guess with magnets, enough magnets in there would suck it down, but that would be quite a piece of spring steel.
Well, spring steel ain't cheap either.
Well, my brother-in-law is a welder by trade. They make stainless steel kitchen equipment, and I've got him checking if he can get a better price on the bed for me. So plus that would save me shipping.
Yeah.
So. Hey, Glenn, I might need some aluminum plates. Can you get something on that for ours?
Yeah, shoot me an email or whatever and let me know what you need.
Okay.
You're talking about bed plates or?
Yeah.
Yeah, shoot me an email and let me know.
Because we're gonna have the Build-Tac flex plate, and then we're gonna probably have a plate underneath of that, and yeah, from there. So.
No, yeah, you need something for the flex plate bottom
piece. Yeah.
Dude, this did not work well.
I don't know why that. Where'd that go? Oh, Uncle Ron wanted to know if Travis could cut and die sub your logo on the bed of the FK1. Actually, you know, it's funny. Way back when this whole project started and it was going to have a moving bed, I shipped some aluminum to Travis to see if his laser would cut it to make the carriage, the Y carriage, but his laser didn't handle the aluminum very well. So then I was going to have it water jet cut, but now the bed doesn't move. So yay me.
You using for bed heaters?
It's a 120 volt silicone heater. I got a guy in China that's going to make it for me custom for $100. So all like the holes and stuff for the standoffs for the bed will be in the spots where I want them to be, and
yeah.
So I didn't think that was such a terrible deal.
Nah, $100, that ain't bad.
Yeah, $100 with the thermistor in there and everything. So,
are you? Maybe the. Oh crap! Which board are you using?
The Duet.
Can the Duet support multiple thermistors for the bed?
It can.
Are you?
Yeah.
It takes in multiple thermistors, so I would imagine software-wise you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing multiple thermistors since the bed is so big?
Well, I did. Like originally, my plan was I was going to use like 3 normal human-sized heaters instead of this gargantuan thing. But the problem with that was again where the mounting points isn't going to line up with anything factory. But I thought it would be cool if I could heat half the bed and not the other half of the bed. You know, if I was just going to print over here, I'd only have to heat up half the bed. But because of and now I'm getting tired, so I'm going to lose the word. But creep, like that heater would have to work so hard to keep half of that bed. I mean, it's 6 millimeters thick. It's going to be sucking the heat to the other side anyway.
Yeah.
So
with it being aluminum, it's going to act like a half decent heat sink. So
right. So you know, and being 100 and 120 volt, you know, it's not putting a strain on my power supply.
That's true.
You know, it's just enough to kick the solid state relay over. And
I was kind of thinking the multiple thermistors just for even heat so that you could check it. But if it's not zoned, I guess that really doesn't matter either.
On chat, I just wanted to mention Botics are us. Botics asking if anybody had a crane printer on order. Funny thing about that, I was kind of upset when they came up with the crane quad because that was going to be fully assembled, and I no longer had the only fully assembled 4-color multi-material. Well, I'm not sure if there's a multi-material printer available. And then also they are having difficulty getting slicing working reliably or something like that. For the crane quad.
Which one is the crane printer?
The M3D. It was at Earth.
Was that the one that was using the really pretty filaments?
Yeah, the more expensive pretty filaments.
Yeah, on the little tiny.
I don't even know if you're supposed to use regular filaments with that, or if it's just their those expensive stuff. But just thought I mentioned that. So I was kind of upset when they brought theirs out. I was like, hey, mine was supposed to be the only fully assembled 4-color printer you could buy. So now ours is the only fully assembled enclosed printer you can buy.
3D customer asked if the fuse, does your fuse hold the AC bed current? The AC bed current is going to be protected by the breakers of whatever it's plugged into, and it'll run. The AC voltage will come into the power supply. From there, it'll branch to the solid state relay, which will be controlled by the low voltage off of the duet, and then it'll have the run to the bed. And it's all being kept as short as possible, so that there's not a lot of line voltage wires running underneath this thing. But the circuit breaker of the circuit will protect any shorts in it.
Glenn, you should use HVAC magnetic contactors, just so you have that clunk every time the heater cooks.
I wanted to use those in my garage so that when I turn on the lights, it does that. How much watts is the silicon bed? I can't remember. I'd have to look up the email. I told the guy what I was doing and how hot I wanted it to get, and he told me how much wattage.
That's the safest way to go. Let somebody else do that part out.
I wanted to make sure that I could print PETG, so I'm like, make sure the bed gets up to like 300 degrees. I don't remember what I told. I think I'd said 110 or 115 degrees.
You're printing PETG at 300 degrees on the bed? Wow.
Yeah, I just like to lay the whole roll right on the bed and just let it melt out like a sheet. I make cookie trays out of it.
Can't believe I haven't stabbed myself yet.
I can't believe that Martin hasn't passed out. We should probably let Martin go to bed.
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting pretty beat up.
Teach you to host.
Yeah, yeah.
He's never hosting again.
You just keep talking and don't shut up.
Teach you to host on the night where two printer builders are in here.
Yeah, I'm getting good watch hours on my YouTube channel. I'll just doze off and you go along for.
I was going to say, just go to bed and leave the stream running.
We won't cause any.
We're all there.
Yeah, we won't cause any issues on your stream while you're asleep. No.
No, we would not.
You can trust us.
we never go off the rails.
Yeah, my button is fixed on the stop broadcast.
Yeah. So Matt's doing the ASMR support removal. So
What's that?
Doing the ASMR support removal.
Oh, this is freaking miserable. Never print something really big with supports right after you change a nozzle and never calibrated your printer for that size nozzle.
Oh no, I take it one step further. I print PETG stuff with supports.
Yeah, that's always fun too.
Yeah, they stick together so well.
Yeah. This sucks.
All right, so I want to remind you guys, I believe Sunday night we'll be having a stream 8 p.m. Eastern regarding the Venturi printer. So if you guys want to hang out, I'll probably be set up as a Google Hangouts. We'll see. And also, of course, please contribute if you want to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Martin's been waiting to say that.
Yeah, yeah. So
he's been waiting for us to shut up so he could cut in.
yeah, I was just waiting.
Trying to be a good host.
Yeah, yeah. But thanks everyone for joining in, and it was a good good crowd. There was more than 40 people in the stream at the most, I think. It was good amount of hosts, so it was a good stream. So I thank everybody for joining in. So
thanks, Martin.
Yeah,
thanks, Martin. And Martin, the most important question is can't you do your videos in English?
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah, but see you guys.
See everybody.
Bye, everybody.